Batman Arkham Asylum, a game that changed how we viewed superhero games, that showed us the potential of what skill, hard work, and passion could create. A game that personally is one of my favourite games and gaming experiences of all time. It's Arkham Asylum that helped superhero video games no longer be seen as a gimmick or a cash grab, and showed that they could actually be iconic games that stood up there with some of the greatest of all video games. Arkham's legacy is unmatched, and because of it, Batman is seen as not just a comic icon, but also a top video game icon. For some, the Batman Arkham series may have been their first experience with the Batman mythos. But there have been many great video essays on the Arkham series and Arkham Asylum in particular. But I'm going to take a more different approach. We will still be covering the story and gameplay and all that. I'm also going to tell you about Arkham's secret. A secret that's right in front of you. And that secret is the second story of Arkham. See, during Arkham Asylum, it's not just one story. In the video game, you play through Batman and you're trying to stop the Joker. But you experience one of the worst massacres in Gotham. And the neat part is, it's almost entirely told through environmental design alone. And maybe, when you stop and look at the area around you, you find out who the real villains of Arkham are. And maybe they aren't the supervillains, and not the inmates, but the ones who are meant to help them in the first place. So, what exactly is this video? Well, it's a lot of different things, so I'll quickly explain it in more simpler terms. Think of it as a full playthrough, but with each part being analysed and discussed from story, gameplay, art design, game design, characters, pixels, atmosphere, the lore, and much, much more. I'll also be adding my own experiences and opinions throughout the discussion, and will recap the story in a more comedic way. So that will hopefully be more entertaining than just a straight up recap. But that's for you to decide, not me. And then once I've gone through the game, I'll talk about any bonuses, end/post-game content, and then a final conclusion summing up my thoughts on the game. This playthrough also contains ENB shaders that I will toggle on and off since it's my first time doing a PC playthrough. I want the game to look as best as possible. And unfortunately, the one thing I cannot talk about is the music because it gets claimed instantly on YouTube. If you think you'll enjoy this kind of video, I recommend getting food and drink and getting comfy since it's going to be a long one. And hopefully a fun and informative one. I'm basically trying to make the ultimate Batman Arkham Asylum video. So, let's enter the world of Arkham Asylum, where we have mutant crocodile monster men, claustrophobic hallways, insane inmates, horrific methods of rehabilitation, creepy clowns, risque jesters, men dressed as bats, and a lot of really bad duck jokes. To note, Batman Arkham Asylum is rated for 16 and older. This means that mature themes will be discussed, such as mental health, murder, violence, horror elements, but more importantly, there'll be major spoilers for the entire game. You have been warned. With that said, enjoy the video. To truly understand the impact and legacy that Batman Arkham Asylum has, we have to go back in time to 2008, a time where there was no Arkham series, and no great Batman games, or many great superhero games in general. The closest thing we probably had was Spider-Man 2. Now, there had been attempts at making a Batman game, but while some weren't awful, most were failures and didn't match the quality or world that Batman deserved. So imagine it's August 2008, and there have been murmurings of a Dark Knight tie-in video game. There had already been a Batman Begins video game, so a follow-up made sense. But when it's officially announced, it's called Arkham Asylum, and it's from a new game studio called Rocksteady Studios. Not tying into any movie, but its own separate thing. Now, gaming forums used to be the main place to talk about gaming news. Now there's a lot more social media news outlets, even YouTube. And gaming forums are still around now, but they're nowhere near as popular as they used to be. And I really highly recommend checking out the full forum and seeing the hype build and the reactions to the game release. It's all really fascinating, but I want to focus on this one comment by Arachnid Guy. to really get people to understand the general consensus around Batman games at that time. There has never been a good Batman game, ever. Which isn't entirely true, but there was never a great one. One that truly captured what it felt like to be the Dark Knight. But in a year from then, there would be. And it would be a superhero gaming miracle that would change gaming forever. We start this story with Batman having already captured the Joker and taking him back to Arkham Asylum. Joker is strapped in a chair with security guards and the warden is to our right. We also get our first look at Elizabeth Arkham Asylum and is in a really rundown state. The door we entered through is rusted and there's a lot of grime on the walls. The building is quite literally decomposing. The architecture itself also doesn't look modern at all. It's very steelwork, and we later find out why. To the left is a pretentious picture of the warden. What kind of person would hang a picture of themselves up in the entranceway to an intensive treatment building? Paying attention back to the dialogue going on, Warden Sharp mentions his mayoral campaign.
I want him securely locked away this time. Another escape and I will lose support for my mayoral campaign.
What's initially a throwaway line actually ends up being important down the line. It shows that Arkham City was always planned from the start, and throughout the Arkham series, the continuity is mostly pretty consistent. Skipping a bit to after the initial scan, we look at Officer Bowles, who has his flask on his belt. This will also come into play later. It's always nice to just see the extra amount of detail added into games. We get a small area to explore now, and appreciate the still living and breathing cast with us. Because soon, over half the guards here will be dead. It's here we also get to see Dr. Penelope Young, one of the main characters in Batman Arkham Asylum. Her label on her outfit simply says Arkham Doctor, and the notepad she's carrying around cannot be read at all. Apart from that, her character design is simply a doctor, but more interesting is the guards. And we get some very interesting lore as most of the guards are currently trainees, which explains why most of them will end up dead. We also get our first look at Aaron Cash, whose first appearance wasn't actually in this game, but throughout the series, he would become a main character in his own right. This intro is one of the greatest in gaming in my opinion. It's subtly showing you the last living moments of some of the background cast, while also letting you experience walking around the asylum without any danger, so that when the breakout does happen, it hits even harder. Also establishing the relationship through the dialogue with Batman and Joker. The only negative thing about it is you can't skip it, even on new playthroughs, and it's quite long. Further along, we see in the opposite corridor Blackgate prisoners in the asylum taunting about Blackgate, which had a mysterious fire that got every single prisoner moved here. Now, you don't have to be the world's greatest detective to realize that this is a terrible idea. Not to mention, most of the guards are trainees, and the asylum is severely understaffed and in a state of ruin and decay. This exact sequence will also return later in the game in a unique way. Thing to note, I don't know if it's just me, but I can't stop hearing GLaDOS in the announcer's voice, even the things it says. Honestly, it could be the same voice actress for all I know. But since we have Google, we can actually check, and it's even more shocking. It's not GLaDOS' voice actor, but it's actually Catwoman in Batman the Animated Series. And once you know this, you really hear it in the voice.
When are we shipping those Blackgaters out of here? I don't like it.
Pacification system active. Shoot to kill permissions granted.
Hey, bats!
Quite horribly, the guards are all saying how uneasy they are, that the Blackgate prisoners are in the asylum, which as we find out later, they were really right to be. But for now, we get one of the best villain introductions in a game.
Oh boy! Is that you?
The elevator slowly comes up, and all we are shown is the back of a scaly monster, larger than anything we have seen in the game so far. Sparks are flying from the old, weak elevator. The security guards raise their weapons on the creature. The chains from the beast clank, and it stumbles out. The flashlights shine onto its face, revealing its razor-sharp teeth. It sniffs in the air, acknowledging nothing but Batman, and stares with its glowing yellow eyeballs. It taunts Batman, saying how it will hunt and kill him. We also see the collar stuns him though, and we can save this information for later. Killer Croc's design and nature in this game is probably the scariest thing in this game. And as a kid, I was absolutely terrified of this cannibalistic man, if you can even still class it as a human. The guards actually have a lot of dialogue that is easily missed if you keep progressing, including this one about looking up Croc online.
Look Croc up on the internet. Wish I hadn't.
Which you can only imagine what messed up stuff shows. Like Killer Croc in a thong. Now near the end of the intro, a guard mentions that Joker killed 3 of his crew.
So, you're back. You killed 3 of my crew and you busted out of here.
Joker replies that he will aim for much more next time. And Joker is grimly right with this statement. And it's a lot more than 3.
Only 3? I'll be sure to try harder next time. What say we aim for 100?
We speak to some guards more, get a bit more about Cash and Croc. Joker also says a line that he will repeat in Arkham City, which is cool.
Twinkle, twinkle, little bat. How I wonder where you're at.
And then we go through the last doors, and that's the end of the intro. It's here we get our first look at Commissioner James Gordon, and the design is quite frankly terrible. He's very stocky, and I much prefer his brown coat outfit compared to this waistcoat design. The Arkham staff don't let Batman escort Joker any further. A quick blink and you miss it moment is Frank Bowles taking a swig from his flask. Escorting Joker with an unarmed guard and a doctor was the worst decision they could have made, and it's like they didn't listen to him saying he would aim for 100. The electrified gates come back on and no one notices. To be honest, the doctor here really just lets a handcuffed man choke out a guard, fight or flight, and he chooses stare. He's rewarded with a kick, which does somehow kill him. It turns out the Jester Queen of Crime, Harley Quinn, has already taken over the asylum security, so in the span of less than a minute, Joker has escaped and the first combat begins. Arkham's combat is simple yet very fun. You strike an enemy to build up its combo meter, and when the lightning symbol appears, you counter an enemy's attack. But what's interesting is the more combo you have, the faster Batman punches, and the more acrobatic he will become. You start being able to target enemies that are further away from you, and it becomes almost rhythmic, almost like a dance. And the final hit is always a satisfying slow motion hit that signifies the combat is over. It's not just simply button mashing, and with further Wayne Tech upgrades, it does become more like a rhythm game, which was actually the early idea in development for the combat system. This section of the game is pretty much take down 2 waves of enemies and then the Joker runs away that starts the events of the Asylum Massacre. The second story of Arkham has begun. Gordon tells you that we are trapped, and you also remember that Gordon was there the whole time, and while you were fighting these goons, did absolutely nothing. Not even call anyone. I don't even know if he has a weapon on him. This is nitpicking, but it's quite funny to watch Gordon do absolutely nothing. We start getting a conversation between Batman and Joker, played masterfully by the late greatest of all time Batman, Kevin Conroy, and the greatest Joker voice actor, the legendary Mark Hamill.
Don't make promises you can't keep, bats. I'm in control of the asylum. You're not going anywhere I don't want you to. Understand?
If you think I'll let you run...
Blah, blah, blah. Always with the hero speak. Ooh, I'm getting bored of watching you. Why don't you just come find me?
Of which I just love his delivery of "just come find me." I don't know why, it's just so evil sounding. We get our first character bio, I'll save that for the bonuses at the end. But a very cool feature of the game to show that Batman doesn't kill, which you actually can in this game in a certain section. But when you knock an enemy out, brutally, when you zoom in on their bodies, it does show that they're still breathing. Somehow, after being brutally punched and kicked, while Dr. Man got kicked, and he's somehow now turned over, lying on his front, dead. Detective mode already tells us they are alive or dead, but this detail is just really cool. It's not needed, but it's really cool. And that's what separates good from great games. When there are details added that don't affect the overall quality of the game, but just show the passion of the developers. It makes you feel happy playing the game and gives you the rewarding feeling when you're finding all those missable things. It's like playing through someone's passion project. Instead of a game that's solely made for profit, you can tell the difference between games pretty quickly. The details and the designs of the thugs are also quite alarming, honestly. One looks to have been lobotomized and has a Joker smile scar, or a Glasgow smile. Wouldn't advise looking that up. Not the proudest Scottish history. It's quite strange to have a lobotomy scar when they aren't from the asylum, but they're from Blackgate. Hey, maybe it was recent. But we can also look more at the cells, and the tile work is in ruin, dirt, grime, rust, and who knows what else are dripping from the walls and pipes. We can even look at the pictures of the developers trying to look as crazy as possible, and an Arkham Asylum patient record declaring them quite rightfully insane. Looking back at Gordon, he's left with only Officer Bowles. The other security guard has left, so it's really just Bowles and Gordon. Going to the edge, we can also see the dark chasm that these cells are held over. There is no ground, only darkness. They're quite literally hanging like cages over a pit. In most of the cells, cabinets and beds are destroyed, and when we open up the vent nearby, we find our first Riddler trophy. The start of a hunt that has haunted gamers from Asylum to Night, with an amount of trophies that, to be honest, is very overdramatized. Looking at one cell though, we find it's a bit different than the others. Instead of the plain, cracked walls, we have question mark symbols in green, as well as footprints. This is clearly Riddler's cell. There's also a lot of black smudges on the floor and bed. What are these black smudges? Well, if we look at the beta screenshots, we actually have a picture of this very room. But the Riddler question marks are not green paint, but blood, as well as the black smudges on the ground. See, pretty much every black smudge in this game is, well, actually blood. So all blood seemed to be censored to try and keep it at a teen rating while also not showing any, if at all, wounds or injury. Instead, there's only dark blood. Interestingly, in the Return to Arkham console remaster, it seems they did add the blood back. Not as much, but still noticeable. And some injury will appear in cutscene specific stuff, but no gunshot wounds or anything like that. In fact, blood will only appear on bodies in Arkham Knight and Origins, with Knight getting the 18 rating, but it seems for the first game they didn't want it to be fully R-rated, which is funny because there's a lot of stuff in this game which makes it one of the most disturbing and horrific of the entire series. And while this game technically isn't a horror game, it's as close to a horror game as you can get. But the dark blood will be helpful in piecing together what happens during the Massacre at Arkham, which, speaking of, is just about to begin. While Batman was fighting the waves of enemies, Joker had run off into the hallway throughout the fight and started his killing spree. As Batman walks through the empty corridor, a faint alarm starts ringing. It gets louder as we walk down the corridor. We see Joker's third victim dead and hunched over. That's 3. He's already caught up with his last escape kill record. Let's aim for 100 was not a joke. Suddenly, the announcement voice states security breaches in all areas, and the TV shows all the Blackgate prisoners are now free. Batman is already one step behind, and this is a very common theme with this game, Batman being too late to save people. He's so focused on stopping the Joker that he really isn't a great superhero in this superhero game. The camera footage stops when a clown thug rips off the TV from the wall. Continuing down the very claustrophobic corridors, it feels like the place is closing in on Batman. But we find another guard dead, and the alarm is changed to an even more tense sounding one. Red lights are flashing everywhere. Walking down the hall, we also see a patient wheelchair, which honestly looks quite medieval and barbaric, with a head cage. We don't have time to look as 2 more escaped convicts attack Batman. We take them out efficiently, and we keep on walking. Multiple different alarms are now ringing, each one out of sync with another. More dead guards lie in the hallways, but then one of them starts getting up, still alive. He calls Batman over, but we can choose to ignore him. If we do, he turns around and he starts banging on a security box. And he won't speak to us. If we do speak to him, we find out his name is Eddie Burlow, which is a name to keep in your memory.
He must have gone this way. Door's jammed. I'll try and get it open.
We need help in pacification. I repeat, we need backup in pacification. Can anyone hear this?
Can you hear me? I'm with Batman. Hello?
Where are they?
Back down there. Do you need help?
No. I work better alone.
Zaz is free! Oh God, he's got Mike!
Franklin, can you hear me? If you can, help's on the way.
Down the hall, Batman first contacts Oracle, or Barbara Gordon, who Batman will communicate with during most of the game and the Arkham games.
Is my dad still there?
Commissioner Gordon is safe. Joker's not far ahead. I'll stay in contact.
At the end of the hall, Zach Franklin tells us that Zsasz, the serial killer, has gotten free. And he also has hold of a guard called Mike. We see Zsasz on the screens with Mike in an electric chair.
Guard dies. Do you hear me?
And we can see him ahead through the glass. He says that if he sees Batman, Mike dies. So we gotta take him down silently. This part of the game works perfectly as a tutorial to detective mode, stealth and glide kick, as well as ground takedowns. Now if you don't go stealthy and throw a batarang, well, this happens.
Coming on the ground, so I'll stay up high.
Zsasz has got my buddy. He's gonna fry him. Do something, please.
Keep him occupied. I need to get behind him.
Damn it. If we go down there, he will execute my buddy.
In which Batman dies from embarrassment. But this is something that the Arkham games has that isn't talked about enough. Not the obvious game over, but the actual game over. They are some of the most creative and effective game overs in a game. But back to saving Mike, we get to use a detective mode. We see that there's gargoyles above us and grapple from each one. Then we can use the glide kick to take out Zsasz. And then ground takedown him. Our first guard is saved. Then immediately, we get introduced to Harley Quinn, what I can only describe as damn good pixels. Why is this important?
What it does, it appeals to like the male fantasy.
But in all seriousness, it's interesting to see how character design has changed from older games to more modern ones. The older games had a lot more, let's say, outrageous designs, or to put it bluntly, sexualized. Now, comics and comic character designs are very sexualized, so it did make sense to make these kind of designs. So let's quickly appreciate some of the pixels in the game. We of course have Harley Quinn with her nurse outfit and her original outfit underneath it. This design was very hit or miss for a lot of people, but in the setting, I do really like it. And it's kind of iconic for the Batman Arkham Asylum game. Harley is also very vain about it.
How do you like my new uniform? Pretty hot, huh?
So on a pixel rating out of 20, with 1 to 5 being bad, 5 to 10 being average, and 10 to 15 being good, and 15 to 20 being amazing, it's honestly a 17 for me, though the face model does look a bit strange with the domino mask. We also have the doctors and nurses in the game, in particular Dr. Penelope Young, and these characters sadly suffer from what I can only describe as Bioshock face syndrome, in which sometimes their face looks like a splicer from Bioshock. This is from the age of the game, but in some angles they look alright. Though, let's just say she looks a lot better and different in her character bio art. But hey, Return to Arkham did update character models to see what they were most likely trying to make them look like. And in that, I bumped them up to honestly a 15. Each nurse actually has a very unique look. But by far, the best design in the game is Poison Ivy, and that's no surprise. She's meant to be a temptress and a deity-like figure. But funnily enough, she also somehow looks the most human out of everyone, because Harley has some weird alien eyes with the domino mask. But I'll talk Ivy more when we get to her. As for the male characters, we have the GOAT, an unsung hero of the Arkham series, Aaron Cash, who is very striking with his hook arm. We'll give him a 12 on the pixel rating. And Batman, who obviously looks like a Greek god and is 210 pounds of pure muscle, so he obviously gets a 20. And that's kind of it for the male side. Everyone else is kind of really ugly, to put it lightly. Especially Jim Gordon. He looks really weird. I really dislike the design of Jim Gordon in this game. You'd also get like a 5. Well, I guess there's also Killer Croc, but that's probably illegal. Alright, back to the introduction of Harley Quinzel, who has captured Quincy Sharp, the warden, and basically tells us what we already knew, that the Blackgate prisoners have pretty much majority control of the island. Again, while we are doing this, there was a full-blown war going on between the guards and the inmates. Oracle then tells us that Joker's placed bombs all over Gotham, and that if anyone tries to interfere or step on Arkham Island, he will detonate them. So Batman and the guards and the staff are all alone on the island, and we will have to survive the onslaught. Now, Batman does not tie up Zsasz and just leaves him there, which definitely will not have severe consequences. We then speak to Dr. Gretchen Whistler, Zsasz's doctor.
Zsasz will be rehabilitated eventually. These things just take time.
This patient will be hard to cure.
What do you base that opinion on?
On the fact that he has hundreds of self-inflicted scars on his body. One for each of his victims. Ever thought what will happen when he runs out of flesh to scar?
I am convinced he'll respond to treatment before that happens.
Just don't get so absorbed in his treatment that you wind up as his final cut.
She claims she can somehow cure Zsasz. It's a nice dream, I guess, but a very foolish one. We look around and see black smudge, which we now know is blood, and we can see that this area is pretty much covered in it. And it looked very grisly in the beta version. We do have one smart guard keeping a gun on Zsasz, but somehow he will escape later. Looking closely at Zsasz's design, it's horrible in a good design way. There's all the victims' scars and the scar he's been saving for Batman, which is absolutely the one across his big forehead. He definitely does not have damn good pixels, more damn disturbing. So at the moment, Harley Quinn thinks we are trapped, and we have to use the detective mode to locate how to get out. If we go back and listen to the guard, we can hear that all communication between the guards has been cut off, which is not a good sign. Batman rips the vent off the wall. I've never seen a vent this big in real life. But it will become a staple in the Arkham series and is a beloved part of the Arkham series, so never diss the vent.
Another mark for Zsasz. He should be put down. Permanently.
Zach Franklin suggests killing Zsasz, since beside us is a dead guard. Now, it's down to your own morals if you think Zach's suggestion is the correct one. So going through the vent, the game is put into a first-person POV, letting us feel the claustrophobicness of the vent, and see all the detail like the grime, dust, cobwebs, and in late events, there's some interesting surprises. This is where we hear the guards' comms and hear loud gunshots and the Joker leading the Blackgate prisoners. Eventually, as we near the end of the vent, we start hearing the gunshots again. But this time, it's near us. It's very terrifying and a very effective way of building the tragic atmosphere. The guards really were not trained and not prepared for something of this magnitude. Turning the corner, we hear that iconic yet creepy Arkham chime. Toxin has been detected, and we are about to see firsthand what it can do. Behind the glass are guards screaming for help, while green gas fills the room. Joker Toxin. Eventually, the screams turn into painful laughter. A lot are sadly already dead. Somehow, though, this guard can see people alive, which from his point of view, he should not be able to see people up on the ceiling.
I think I can still see people alive in the room.
We grapple up, and we see the guards hanging on for dear life. Now, why the guards were up here is a mystery, but we will take any chance to save people in this game, because we won't have that many successful superhero moments. Interestingly, we do hear a guard called Steve, who was mentioned on the comms, so that's some nice continuity.
It's here. Just hold on a little longer, Steve.
I can't. I'm gonna fall. Help me.
At the end of the room, we also find a Blackgate prisoner. We can choose to help him or not help him. Helping him basically means Batman instantly knocks him out and you get an achievement/trophy. Clearing the room by hitting the vent with a well-aimed batarang, we can now explore the decontamination room a bit. And on the ground, we find more bodies, and the attention to detail the Rocksteady have added to this game is just astounding. On the floor, we see the dark blood and multiple bodies, but we also see the bullet shells and bullet holes in the walls. Some guards were killed by the gas, and some in a shootout. And what's also such an incredible attention to detail is there was also dead Blackgate prisoners who were killed in the shootout. The massacre story is going on and being told by the environment. And we can piece together how each person died and what was happening from the bullet holes and the bullet impact. Because they aren't randomly placed, they're beside the appropriate bodies. It's a grisly attention to detail. In the room, some of the dead prisoners are actually a type of enemy who won't show up until later in the game. That's just an interesting fact. Looking closer at some of the objects in the room, there's a lot of showers and a really barbaric looking spiked machine. Who knows what this is used for? I sure don't. Under the machine is a prisoner who has a face mask that's kind of like Bane in Dark Knight Rises. This may suggest that this is a cannibalistic prisoner, which is awful to think about. Finally, we have caught up to Joker. He's painted his graffiti on the ground, which, if you are playing the Xbox or PlayStation Game of the Year edition, had 3D with cool glasses. And the paint and explosive gel looked really nice. You did have to see the game with red and blue though, so it's a trade-off. Yeah, Joker's graffitied his path of death pretty much. We beat up the inmates who killed the guards, and then we confront Joker.
What took you so long? Oh.
There's no escape, Joker. I will find you.
Oh, I'm counting on it. Just not yet. He's a big one.
He reveals our first boss fight and a major story plot point, as stumbling out of the cage is a massive humanoid monster with green glowing eyes and veins, and his spine literally tearing apart the skin from his back. The Titan creature picks up one of the guards' bodies and flings it at Batman. The Titan then roars an unnatural sound and charges at us. We stun it with a quick batarang, and my evade doesn't work at all and I get slammed into a wall. Not my best skill showcase, especially when I'm playing on an easier difficulty so that I can get through the story quicker, though I do recommend playing all Arkham games on the hardest difficulty. It really feels like the correct way to play, especially when you don't have the counter symbol. Returning to the boss fight, this time I hit the batarang and successfully dodge out the way, and the Titan goes flying into the wall and is temporarily dazed. This lets us get our damage in with a quick flurry of punches. The Titan then slams the ground, sending a shockwave, and that's the mechanic for this boss. It's quite interesting, until it becomes less interesting when you have to repeat it so many times, and there's a lot of Titan in this game. Yeah, it's one of Arkham Asylum's shortcomings. The gameplay loop of Titan boss fights gets very repetitive, but at this stage in the game, it's still fresh. So, an interesting point about this fight in particular is that you can win by beating down the invisible health bar, or you can wait and the Titan boss will die from a heart attack, since it's a test one, without you even hitting it once.
Well, that was unexpected, wasn't it? Oh well, note to self, need stronger test subjects. Seeing as how I'm feeling generous, I'll give you this one for free. Knock me off, I dare you. End this. Pull the plug. Stop me once and for all. Oh, you're getting too predictable.
Joker gives us a chance to kill him by knocking him into the abyss, obviously knowing Batman will not do it. Joker leads through patient isolation, which once again is a giant cage in darkness. Leaving through massive gates, it's very horrific. It's now we get our first Wayne Tech upgrade, and we can choose from a decent bunch straight from the start. This is nice, there's no skill tree per se. I went with critical combo strike, since this adds the timing part to the combat. See, it's actually not the most effective to button mash. If you delay slightly, you can increase combo score and build up special combo moves quicker. The guard lets us through the electric gate and tells us he's dragged Jerry's body into the room. Using detective mode, Jerry's actually not dead, and is only unconscious, though he's slumped as if he was dead.
Loop is locked.
Having a little trouble up there?
Joker.
You were expecting maybe Two-Face?
There's no escape, Joker.
Silly bat! I don't want to escape. I'm having way too much fun. I even have you here to keep a smile on my face.
Not for long.
Really? We'll see. Ta-ta! Oh, I forgot to say. Just in case you were planning on following me, I've arranged a little insurance. Gordon is on his way to Harley as we speak.
Officer Bowles.
If I see you trying to follow me, he dies. Harley's looking forward to it. Maybe I'll film it and post it on the internet.
Joker shows us that Gordon was an idiot for staying alone with one guard and gets knocked out by Frank Bowles. Still wondering what Gordon was doing the whole time, but moving on. Joker now taunts us on the TVs. This keeps things entertaining for the player, because a lot of what Joker says is really fun in a morbid way. In one of the rooms, we see an advert for the Iceberg Lounge with a picture of Penguin. The design for Penguin here was a lot closer to the comic design, and he does not look anything like this in Arkham City. But now, the Arkhamverse isn't a thing, so there's a lot more comic designs for characters that we don't see in the game. We now go down a red light corridor, and at the end, another body. This time though, it's not a guard, but it's a staff member. Joker's gang have started killing the staff. It's quite dark since they've put a bucket on the body with the Joker smile graffiti letting the player use their imagination to wonder what the state of their face currently is. It's more effective than showing gore half the time, by letting us piece together the missing information from our morbid imagination. We do get descriptions from the taunting prisoners about what they did, and it's quite horrible to see the taunting over the body.
Do it again. Oh, I forgot. He's dead.
It's something the other Arkham games don't really do as much, maybe in certain areas, but there's a lot of it in Asylum, which might explain why people think tonally it's much darker. But apart from that, there's a lot of messed up stuff in future games as well, but the taunting of the dead does stick with you. We avenge the guard, and then we contact Oracle and start finding evidence to help us with following Bowles and finding Gordon. We find Bowles' flask, which we saw in his character at the start, and he spilled alcohol, so now we have a lead to follow.
Grabbing every reference to Arkham.
Oracle starts looking up references to Arkham, and this will come in handy and will basically be her role in the game, updating us with relevant information. So the whole look of the game is now a pretty purple, and we follow the alcohol in the atmosphere to find out where Bowles has taken Gordon. As we get nearer the room at the start of the game, in the silence of the room, nothing is heard but a phone call. The phone answers, and it's a woman looking for a guard called Steve.
Hello? What's happening there? I'm trying to contact Steve. Is he there?
Hold 1 second. I'll see if I can find him.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I've looked everywhere, but I can only find his head. I'll get back to you when I find the rest of them.
Yeah, that was really dark. And also really sad, but not until you remember that we saved a guard called Steve earlier in the game who was in the decontamination room.
Just hold on a little longer, Steve.
I can't. I'm gonna fall. Help me.
So for once, we have good news. Steve is alive and survives the rest of the game. So Joker was, well, joking about his death. It's nice to have some positive stuff for once. Our detective work leads us to an elevator, and Harley Quinn jumps down in front of us and blows up the elevator, sending her flying up. Now, would this actually work in real life? I don't care, it looks cool. But more importantly, she dropped an elevator on us, and Batman saves a guard. So we now have to get up the elevator shaft, but first we find Harley Quinn's patient tape on the desk. The desk has a really funny plaque that I kind of want on my computer desk, saying, "You don't have to be mad to work here, but it certainly helps." I'm guessing Rocksteady Studios has this in their offices. We can also go into a vent at the bottom of the elevator, and traversing through the cobwebs, we find a room with straw and a lot of photos, most of Batman, but some of the game developers. But one thing is clear, someone's been stalking Batman's movements. Now, the pictures have places later in the game, so it doesn't really make sense unless Batman just glides around Arkham in his spare time, which he very well might. We also find a letter that can be found in most of the game in areas basically from Joker telling people, "Your relative is a loony." Here's the full translation. Basically Joker telling people, "Your relative's a loony." We also look at a map of Arkham with writing that is very hard to make out. I went and tried to find this place in a video for Return to Arkham to see if it was more clear, but I couldn't find any that was zoomed into it, so I grabbed this screenshot and will try to translate it a bit. I now see why people put me here. It's only a matter of time before I kill the bat. If anyone knows the full translation, let me know in the comments below. But the point is, this is Scarecrow's lair where he has been spying on Batman, following his movements and planning his attacks, which will happen in the game. It's also a riddle to solve. Looking at the computer, we can also see that Scarecrow has been watching since the start of the game. and was very recently in this room. There's also a lot of human skulls in the lair, possible prisoners who found this area before Scarecrow. Maybe they died of hunger. We also see glowing mushrooms. There's actually a lot of glowing mushrooms in the game, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were used to make the advanced fear toxin that Scarecrow uses in the game. But we have to climb up the elevator shaft. So we do some classic no grapple shimmying and jumping, and we make our way up. While making our way to the top, Joker forces us to listen to Frank Bowles betraying the guards, resulting in their deaths. It's a cruel taunt.
With the old man, how are they going to get past all those guards? Let's have a listen, shall we?
Hey Frank, breathe in. Joker's got more men on the way. They're coming around the front of the asylum. Gotta stop them getting in, quick, get over there. Damn it, come on, everyone, cover the main entrance.
How many are there, Bowles? Wait, hang on, how the hell do you know what... Bowles! Frank, what are you doing? No, put it down!
Frank, what the hell? Quinn, it's clear, get your ass in here.
You're some piece of work, Frankie. Crook, false, and stuff from you.
We actually get to see the crime scene of this quite shortly. But not gonna lie, the Frank what the hell was not the most urgent sounding after witnessing him kill people. Sounds more of a reaction you give when someone spills a drink on your sofa.
Frank, what the hell? Quinn!
Not, about to shoot you in the face. We hear more security breaches while climbing, meaning Joker's army is gaining even more control of the island, and have majority control of the intensive treatment building. While climbing up, we spot a stone structure with a scarab beetle in its middle. Scanning it reveals something called the Spirit of Arkham. This will be something that will be explained later. At the top of the elevator, a group of prisoners are taunting a guard they recently killed, and also kicking the body. But they aren't done. They also threaten to kill his entire family.
This guard always gave him a hard time.
Not anymore.
Yeah, serves him right.
You really gonna do what you said?
Yep, get out of here, find his family, and waste them all.
That's cold, man. I like it.
Joker's the real deal, playing this for months. Even tricked the Bat into bringing him home.
It went like clockwork. Joker sure knows how to throw a party.
Yeah, they're real scum. So we give them what they deserve. The next part is a key part of Batman being one step behind in this game. And instead of finding the aftermath, we see a guard die in front of our very eyes. This section of the game is also the tutorial for stealth. We have just seen what happens if we attack the prisoners straight on, and we don't want to end up like the poor guards. Detective mode will now show us armed enemies in red. This will be useful as in the game, guns really kill you quickly. And you don't have much time or health to escape on harder difficulties. But for humor's sake, let's show you what happens if you don't use stealth.
Need to be smart. Find a different way past them.
Where'd it go? I don't know. Keep it covered.
So we do the smart thing and get taught about silent takedowns, one of the most important moves in the game. And next, we get the first silent predator part of the game. There's 3 hostiles armed in a big arena. Using silent takedowns, we take them out, without being seen or heard, making use of corner takedowns and the inverted takedown from atop a gargoyle. Enemies here will mostly patrol around at the start, slowly and without a care in the world. Once they start finding our work, they will become more panicky, change their route, and start randomly firing at stuff. And at max fearful state will be stunned temporarily when we appear in front of them. It's a very cool mechanic that feels true to how Batman uses fear. It's also never explained or told to the player, and it's only shown through the gameplay and the player's awareness to actually learn this mechanic. We can use gargoyles, vents, corner cover, many ways to sneak around the arena. The gargoyles are the most effective, as enemies will rarely look up only if they've seen you before grappling, or if you've used an inverted takedown. They will look at vents, however, if there's a body beside one. Now that we have taken out the armed prisoners, we can look around at the main area of the intensive treatment building, the lobby, the place we walked through in the intro of the game. And there's broken furniture, wheelchairs burning on the path, and of course a body with a dark blood stain leading to a door. Near the exit to this room, we see the remains of an intense shootout. Shotgun shells are littered everywhere. Bullet holes riddle the room, more dead guards, but also dead prisoners. Both groups have killed one another. The surviving prisoners taking the weapons from the guards. And the main part of this gruesome picture, Frank Bowles strapped to a patient chair with a horrible green smile painted in his face, frozen in a moment of intense pain or fear. We never find out how he died. I can't say I feel sorry for him. The only writing on the body is 2 words, dead end. Joker had found out how we'd been tracking Gordon. Before we even get a moment break, our communication gets hacked by none other than Edward Nygma himself, the Riddler.
Yes, it is I, Edward Nygma, the Riddler. And more importantly, your intellectual superior. My genius has allowed me to easily hack into your primitive communication.
He claims to be smarter than Batman and gives us a riddle to solve. Don't cut yourself on this sharp portrait. The answer's obvious, Warden Sharp's picture. But before answering the riddle, we have to appreciate the bullet holes in the glass. Such a sick bit of detail that was added that in no way needed to be added, but it really adds to the atmosphere. Solving the riddle, he very much does not like that Batman is called the world's greatest detective. And now we get Riddler challenges, a whole lot of fun stuff to do around the island. From riddles to trophies to chattering teeth and more. For those who like collectibles, it's great. For those who don't, it's torture. We don't get a moment to think because a guard opens the door for us now that we've cleared out the area. He's called William North, and he was the sole survivor of the massacre in the lobby.
It was a massacre. Bowles came walking in telling everyone to cover the front entrance. Said something about Joker's army coming through the main gate. 2 of my guys moved to the exit, and Frank shot him dead. They never stood a chance.
Was Bowles alone?
Thought he was. Then I saw Harley Quinn. She was surrounded by Black Gate prisoners. They were just killing everyone in the room. I had no choice. I got in here, locked the door. I could see it on the security feed. They had someone with them. It looked like the commissioner.
Bowles is dead. They carried on without him. Must have outlived his usefulness.
Good. He was scum. I'm sorry, buddy.
After the dialogue, William starts speaking to the dead guard. The blood trail belonged to him. Clearly dragged this guy into this room. He normally says, "Sorry, buddy, and I'll look after Maria. I promise." But the dialogue did not trigger for me. But in any case, a lot of dialogue mentions the guards having family, so it's just more dialogue to build up the tragedy. We leave William to mourn, and we get closer to the exit to the intensive treatment building. Jack Ryder starts playing over the radio. The general public have now heard of the siege going on in Arkham.
Jack Ryder is live from the Gotham Bay area with some breaking news.
This is Jack Ryder with breaking news in the Gotham Bay. We are getting reports of an armed siege on Arkham Island. 2 minutes ago, Joker broadcast to all news channels this chilling message.
Greetings, Gotham. This is the voice of your new master. Oh, hang on. I skipped a bit. Joker here. I'm in control of Arkham Island, and you can all consider it out of bounds. If I see any lawmen, vigilantes, or do-gooders in tights coming this way, I'll start detonating random bombs around the city. What'll it be? A
been restricted, airspace is closed off, and early reports suggest that Batman himself is trapped on the island. We'll be right here, reporting live on any developments. Back to the studio.
Thanks, Jack. More as it happens.
It's interesting he mentioned blowing up a billionaire's mansion. That won't come full circle. In the locker room, a light is flickering, broken, casting the room into darkness for a few seconds. This asylum has definitely seen better days. As a surprise to anyone that it even still stands, or that anyone even lets it stand. We exit through the vents and find ourselves in a cliffside with flora and leaves everywhere. Then ahead of us, the leaves are blowing, a clock tower is seen in the distance. And as we slowly walk up, we get one of the best introductions to a location in a game. We've made it out of the claustrophobic halls of the intensive treatment building and are now free to roam around the main grounds of the asylum and breathe in the fresh air and the sense of dread that is soon to follow. Now on the island's surface, we have more freedom than ever before. We glide through the night sky, but not long before Joker tells us that he's going to break our Batmobile, something most Arkham players would later wish he achieved. But we don't go to the objective because there's people to talk to. People most people would miss in their first playthrough. The first, a guard on his post on a massive watchtower with walkways.
I heard what happened on the news. Thought you bringing Joker back here was a good thing.
So did I. Stay here while I deal with this.
You probably don't remember, but you stopped Two-Face from burning down half of my apartment building a couple of years ago.
He tells us we stopped Two-Face from burning his apartment. It's nice that there's some extra dialogue. It helps to build the Batman Arkham mythos a bit more. That would later be called the Arkhamverse. But something strange about the guard is the relaxed, calm posture and speech. See, a lot of the Arkham guards don't seem to know the extent of what's happening. Speaking to more guards, we find out that they all know the radios have died, and they were directed here. Again, a massive red flag for don't listen to this. But this guard has a name, and it's Louis Green. We also get told by another guard that Warden Sharp closed down an old pump station, as it was a security risk, so this way forward is not accessible for us right now.
Locked down. No one in or out. It's cool.
It's not cool. Joker's unpredictable. Stay alert.
Yeah? You think he'll come this way?
If we continue speaking, we get more information about the history of the asylum.
Sorry, sir, but you can't come in this way. It's locked down.
Where does the door lead?
It led to the old pump station. Warden Sharp had it closed down soon after he arrived. Said it was a security risk. They give you a history lesson on this place when you sign up. I wish I didn't know the kind of things that happened here. The intensive treatment wing used to be a factory. Must have been a hell of a place. 8 workers committed suicide there 10 years back.
He tells us the intensive treatment building was a factory where 8 workers died 10 years ago. This explains the steelwork look of the intensive treatment, and also why it looks so run down. You can also look up and see the factory's funnel on the island. Once again, we get more dialogue that the guards know there's a breakout. But last breakout, Joker only killed 3 because, in that instance, his goal was to escape, not invade. Interesting point to note is a lot of the guards are wearing raincoat. No rain is present in the game, due to the limitations at the time, but in the remaster, the rain was added in to the game. The gates of Arkham Asylum are metal spikes with 2 statues who resemble a famous figure, none other than the Grim Reaper and Death himself. The gate symbolically tells us, Asylum of Death. The moon resembles that of H.P. Lovecraft, who the name Arkham Asylum comes from, in the town of Arkham. A lot has been inspired from H.P. Lovecraft here, and it works superbly well. And it's one of the reasons the atmosphere is just so perfect in this game. We also find Warden Sharp's statue, standing tall and proud, He's certainly a man who thinks highly of himself. The gothic atmosphere is in full effect here. The plants look otherworldly, the lanterns from an older time period, and the mansion has the Grim Reaper statues surrounding it, with the leaves blowing around everywhere, creating a perfect Halloween setting. 2 guards are guarding the entrance to the Victorian Arkham mansion. They don't say anything important, but just stuff that's scary to think about.
Moved Croc back down to his cell just before we were moved here. I don't want to think what would have happened if that monster was set free. If Joker is running things, shouldn't we just get the hell off the island?
Visiting each building, as Batman, we can tell all the guards to stop anyone trying to get in. Unfortunately, this will cause almost every guard we speak to in this section of the game to be killed. Yeah, I know I said this was meant to be a bit more humorous, but for now it's just kind of dark and messed up. But I'm not wrong. Everyone here will later be found dead. Arkham Asylum is not a happy game. The area outside Arkham Mansion gives me Tomb Raider and Hitman vibes, some of my favourite atmospheres in a game and only really present in this era of gaming, sadly. And this brings us to Arkham's graveyard. We go into a gravekeeper's shack, and we never see the gravekeeper in the game. He probably didn't have a shift at the time. But we do see his tools. A rusted pickaxe and shovels for digging the graves. The guard outside gives us more context and helps us realise that Batman normally doesn't walk around showing himself to people, as they weren't even sure he was real. But in this situation, it doesn't seem like he has a choice. Among all the gravestones, one in particular stands out more than the others, and for a good reason. The skeleton has been dug up, and the gravestone beside it, it's sadly just a bunch of loose words that don't really have any meaning. Why this particular grave has been dug up, we will never know, but it certainly adds to the creepy atmosphere. Walking further into the graveyard, right beside the botanical gardens, one grave is quite literally glowing yellow. The wooden coffin is dug up, and the textures beside it made up from human skeleton remains. This grave belonged to Dr. Amadeus Arkham, the founder of Elizabeth Arkham Asylum. But why has his grave been dug up, and who did it? Questions for a later time. Speaking to more guards, we get some more funny dialogue and find out that Bruce Wayne has been donating to Arkham, probably why it still stands or has any amount of funding at all. The guard in the botanical gardens asks if he can come with Batman, and Batman says he works alone. Don't worry, this point will be present throughout the whole Arkham series, for better or for worse. But a part of me really does want to kind of see a story where the guards followed Batman and how that would turn out. Probably wouldn't turn out that great, since the guards don't really have a no-killing rule and would not exactly help Batman with being stealthy. But it's just an interesting thought to have. As we approach one of the tunnels, we learn more about the battle for Arkham. The guards describe the Blackgate prisoners as animals, clearly experienced in firearms and brutality. The guards are waiting for the National Guard, but they don't realise it's just them out here with Batman. Inside the tunnel, there's been a shootout. The surviving guards have been taking cover behind an ambulance. We find out the dead guard's name is Jackson, and another guard lies on the van, in which they appear to be unconscious, but Detective Mode sadly reveals that they're also dead. In front of us, the killers are still there, pointing their firearms. A direct approach would not end well, and trust me, I know. Sneaking around and grappling up, we see that 2 Blackgate prisoners were also killed. We silently take down the last 2 killers, then enter through the doors into Arkham North. So we now know that Joker's army have majority control of this area, and we're attempting to enter Arkham East, but have been temporarily stopped. Arkham North was the entrance we entered at the start of the game, and Batman's Batmobile is getting whacked by a group of thugs. Somehow they have actually cracked the Batmobile's windshield, which you would think Batman being a billionaire, he would have a lot better armor for his Batmobile.
The entire island will soon be under my control. That's right, boys and girls. Mine!
You always knew it. That's all there is to it. It's mine, 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 mine.
For the time being, we ignore the Batmobile, hoping it gets destroyed, and look around the massive, tall watchtowers with spotlights. A main feature of a maximum security prison. At the top of one, watchmen guards have been killed. Seems to be a common theme going on. It also seems there won't be many guards that are alive in Arkham North. Looking close at the intensive treatment, the massive funnels tower into the dark sky. Now knowing that this was an old factory, the layout and the structure makes a lot more sense. There's a lot of history in this game, which really makes the whole Arkham Island feel special. The main gates of Arkham also have the signature Grim Reaper looking statues. This time they're holding lanterns. The constant imagery and symbolism of death continues its chilling presence. We now take down the thugs attacking the Batmobile, getting hit by a pipe, which actually causes an on-screen effect of blurriness. But we don't exactly want to get hit by pipes too much, so we take them down and then get told to collect the explosive gel from the trunk. This is definitely the most useful in Asylum compared to the other games. We go back into our detective analysis mode and find Gordon's pipe being purposely left behind by Jim Gordon as a way to track him. When we use the explosive gel, Batman actually sprays a bat logo, which is kind of adorable. And with the 3D glasses in the Game of the Year edition, it looks so hyper-real that you could touch it, smell it, taste it, but you don't really want to taste it. It probably don't taste that good. The explosive gel is used on weak walls, so we explode this roof and take the full explosion blast to the face, which also seems to be a canon power of Batman's to survive point-blank deadly explosions, and it will not be the last time he survives point-blank deadly explosions. We enter this little hut area and find one of Riddler's maps, which only when editing the footage have I realised is actually a reused asset of the Scarecrow map. You know, the one in the lair with the writing that I tried to translate. And even seeing it now clearer, I still can't fully translate it. I think I'm right, I don't know. Riddler maps reveal all the secrets in an area, but they only show you where to find them and not how to solve them. So we use the explosive gel on a weak wall beside a locked door, and now we have access to Arkham West. Immediately in front of us are two Joker thugs building something on the visitor center with paint and hammers. We delay their work for a bit and look at the paint cans, which actually are branded as Joker spray. We then enter the Visitor Center. Now, the Visitor Center is one of the most unique areas in the game and even opens up with a small cutscene. Joker is speaking to us with a TV model that looks incredibly lifelike.
Come in! Sit down! Take off your mask! So, Bats, I was thinking, you really could use a friend in here. Someone to talk to, share secrets with. Shall we start with the big one? Who is that behind the mask? Why do you feel the need to go out into the world and fight people like me? Do you really think you can win? We'll see.
The unique feature of the Visitor Center is that you can only see this area from a first-person perspective, as if in a vent, which no other area in the game has. Visitor Center in lore is also the only place non-workers can visit in the asylum, which makes sense, hence the name Visitor Center. Turning back around, the Joker mannequin has changed pose, which suggests this might not actually be a mannequin, because there's no way it could have changed poses. On that note, I forgot to talk about Joker's design with the really nice custom purple suit, the Dark Knight-esque smile, my favourite hairstyle, and the creepy green eyes. Yeah, it's a 20 on the pixel scale for Joker, and it's one of the best designs I've seen on Joker. And honestly, it's my personal favourite of all time. Maybe biased though. Or maybe I'm just right. But scratched on the glass is Monty was here, which was just probably the name of an inmate. We will return to the Visitor Center many times during the game as it changes through progression with more Joker dialogue, and the state of the structure, how close it is to being built, represent the completion of the game. Outside, the trail leads to the medical center, but as always, we don't go there straight away. Instead, going left to a watchtower. We find a dead guard and a live one. He informs us the unfortunate fate of a doctor.
Has anyone got out of the building?
I saw a doctor try and get out. He was torn apart. Thrown in the water. He never stood a chance.
You wait here. I'll be back.
A creepier Joker version of the chime plays before an announcement.
Joker here? Remember, I'm watching all of you. Wherever you are, even you. Yes, you.
This is a random chance of happening when Joker's taunting over the comms. So we now know the state of the war for Arkham. Joker's plan is to take the asylum area by area, which is effective as he overwhelms each area and kills majority guards. But he can't exactly hold an area as his goons just kill then move on, constantly moving around the island. As we go near the medical facility, we hear a detail that I bet the majority of people who have played this game have never heard. And that's the horrible sound of the gunshots killing the people inside the medical facility. It's not constant, but occasionally you can hear the gunshots. There'll be another detail very soon that also shows this, but I rarely notice this particular gunshot sound. And honestly, it might just be a bug looking back at it. This feels like there's more gunshot sounds that are meant to play. So I reloaded here to get a closer look at the craziest detail I've ever seen in a game, and that's the constant gunshots and the gun flashes through the windows as the massacre goes on inside the medical facility. It's a full-on slaughter in there, and this game detail is terrifying and really represents the major theme in this game, that Batman, again, is one step behind constantly. And he's honestly failing to save innocents. It's actually, when you think about it, one of Batman's biggest failures. This detail also shows you how effective Joker's goons are at killing the basically apex predators compared to the poor guards. We follow the trail to the front door of the medical facility and see Harley Quinn lounging on a chair. Unfortunately, Gordon is also in the room. Harley does throw a cup at him.
Nice shot!
What's he doing here? It's too early!
I'm sorry, Puddin'. Don't be angry with me. Mwah!
Go, you little minx. I can never stay mad at you.
Sorry, B-Man. You'll have to find another way. Bye-bye now.
This way's blocked. Better search outside for another way in.
The Arkham TV has now been replaced by a creepy Joker picture behind the logo. Looks like Arkham Asylum really is turning into Joker Asylum. Well, we have to find another way into this medical facility, but another chilling detail is the gunshots have stopped. The killing has already happened and Batman was too late. But Gordon is still alive, sadly, so we must superhero in the superhero game. Finding a weak wall on the roof, we gain access to the medical facility and arguably the creepiest place in the whole game. As we enter the medical facility, Joker speaks over the radio mentioning the doctor who was torn apart outside. Looks like no one else is gonna get out alive. Crawling through the vents, we see Joker's thugs rounding up all the doctors. Lightning flashes from the windows outside, and we enter the room through a vent behind a staircase. This Predator arena is one of my favorites in the whole series. One of the doctors is crying while the other two are strapped in gurneys with their heads clasped into it. It's once again very medieval and Hannibal Lecter-like. We can only use our imaginations to guess what kind of inmates that these were used for. We use an inverted takedown on the thug closest to the doctors, and another feature that this game doesn't tell you should really always be doing is that you can actually throw the Batarang at the rope once using an inverted takedown that will actually cut down the thug, and then you'll be able to actually reuse that gargoyle. There's no tutorial for this, it's only through experimentation can you actually figure this out. Now the thugs will also look in the direction the Batarang is thrown, so you do have to move quickly, but that also turns them around so you can ambush them more easily. But a really, really cool detail is that you can also drop down beside the crying doctor, and there's some special dialogue here.
Dr. Bat! Aging Dr. Bat! Is there a Dr. Bat?
Now being aware of Batman's presence, she stops crying, putting her full trust in Batman. It's actually a pretty wholesome thing, which stands out in a game that has so much grim stuff. With the new explosive gel, we can now spray the weak walls beside goons, detonate it, and knock them out. After taking out the rest of them, we can now speak to the doctors.
I don't know what happened. One minute we were doing our evening rounds, and the next, armed thugs burst into the room and took us hostage.
Did they have anyone with them?
They took someone into the elevator. I couldn't tell who it was.
They obviously didn't want to be followed. The elevator appears to have been powered down. You're going to be okay here.
We'll be fine.
What about the others? We heard gunfire. They could be dead. We should go and help.
Oh no, I forgot. Dr. Kellerman was in the patient observation room, and Dr. Chen went to surgery.
And Dr. Young went to X-ray.
Okay, stay here. I'll find the other doctors.
I'm here, Mike. Hold still. I'll get you free.
You okay? We're safe. Batman saved us.
We speak to the redhead doctor who is called Sarah Cassidy, a character who was saved by Batman in the prequel Arkham Asylum comic. Listening to the doctor's speech, we learn something strange. Joker's taken hostages. Now, this doesn't fit with how the night has been going so far. With every place Joker's army goes, death follows. But he needs these doctors for some reason. And up until now, there's been no sign of a plan. But now we get the hint that this isn't simply just a takeover. With our new task to save each doctor, we get the choice of who to go for first. This doesn't change anything, but some minor dialogue. Before we save the other doctors though, we explore around the main medical facility room. There's more gurneys with bolted in head strap, claws and spikes. It looks like it would have been used for lobotomies, which is not out of the question at this point. But the hospital is notably dirty, with broken tiles and muck and blood all over the floors. This is particularly unnerving since hospitals are meant to be one of the most cleanest places possible, something even the thugs have mentioned. Even the glass windows look like they haven't been cleaned in years, but even worse, there's a floating head in a jar. Now, why on earth is this here and not hidden away? This isn't also the last game that will have a floating head in a jar in a game that should not have floating head in a jar. But it's not just heads, it's also all body parts. But the most scary discovery is a cell with human skulls and bones lying in it. And not just a few, a reasonably worryingly amount. This cell belongs to the massive crocodile man we saw at the start, Killer Croc. We don't want to have anything to do with Waylon Jones, and the game constantly reminds you that this monster exists and at some point, you're gonna have to face him. The fact there is skeletons lying in a broken cell with claw marks makes you question, why do the staff allow it? Do some of the inmates who have died get their bodies thrown to be fed to Killer Croc? Arkham Asylum has so many mysteries that can only be speculated on, but each theory doesn't seem any more crazy than the last. This building is a place of nightmares, and soon we're gonna have to face some of our own personal nightmares. We leave to explore more of the front entranceway, an area we didn't get to enter from. We find a plaque that tells us that this building was funded by Bruce Wayne. You would think it would be in better condition, though it's possible the Arkham management has been putting that money into other sections. Down the silent hallways lies a lone bucket, and let me tell you, when there's a lone bucket in a hallway, it's never a good sign, and also it's not the last game that has a lone bucket in a hallway. Horror games and games with horror elements do love their tropes. We now enter the upper corridor, and if the lack of bodies considering all the gunfire you heard was weird, well, here's your answer. Along these long and maze-like hallways lie dozens of bodies and bullets ranging from guard and staff alike. This is what we were hearing from the outside, but seeing the outcome really creates the horror. It's in these hallways that we learn a bit more about our favourite doctor, Penelope Young.
Let me introduce you all to the sterling work of our new head of research, Dr. Penelope Young. Since joining our team 2 years ago, Arkham is now at the forefront of research into understanding the human mind.
Good afternoon, Arkham. Let's talk about the mind. How can such a complex entity be understood and eventually treated when it breaks? How indeed. Project Titan's goal is to create a test bed to fully probe our special cases in a safe, risk-free manner. Our goal is to cure the more unfortunate specimens, the weak, those not physically up to the challenge that our medical practices present. Project Titan will make us a world-class facility, an award-winning facility.
So she's mentioned something called Project Titan that they claim can be used to cure even the most of challenging patient. It sounds ambitious, and I'd bet that's what all the donation money has been going into, which has left the rest of the medical facility to decompose. The announcement changes to a man describing the medical facility of Arkham, and mentions a website called ArkhamCare.com. This actually used to be a real website you could access, which gave you interesting stories, and when putting in specific access codes relating to the characters in the game, would show you Arkham security footage. Unfortunately, it's now down now, but I'll put a link in the description of a Wayback link that lets you check it out of what it was like. A terrifying thing that is said though is that there's a children's ward in this game. We never see it or hear about it again, but we know it exists. We enter patient observation and find the goat Aaron Cash stuck in a room that's filled with gas. The goons are taunting Cash, with some of them going way too far.
I heard that once Croc gets a taste for someone, he finishes the meal.
One remarkable thing about Cash is how he remains calm in pretty much every situation. We get to the top of the room and it's been completely filled with Joker gas. If we fall in it, we have a button prompt to escape. This section of the game isn't hard by any means, but it involves you looking around and throwing the batarang at buttons on the wall. We see the thug called Razor hanging onto a piece of rope. How he got in this situation is another unsolved mystery of the game.
gonna fall in the gas.
But we cut the rope with a batarang and he crashes into the weak wall and into the gas. But we show him mercy and hit the switch, getting rid of the gas, and Razor somehow lives. For now. We look at the newspaper clippings in the same room and learn about Firefly and Roman Sionis, two characters who we will eventually meet in Arkham series, but not in Asylum. Speaking to Cash, he once again brings up the idea of just killing Joker, a theme that's actually brought up quite a lot in this game, including by Joker himself earlier. But Batman's morality would never let it come to that, something the Arkham interpretation of Batman gets right about the Batman character and his killing rule.
I shouldn't have left intensive treatment. I would have made sure that freak stayed where he belongs. I don't know. We lock him up, he gets out, and more people die. If I just had 1 minute alone with that animal. So what's going on? My radio went dead soon after you brought Joker in.
In general, the computers and technology around the asylum actually look like they belong in something like Fallout. It's very outdated, or maybe that was what it was like at the time. I can't remember. This game's kind of old now. We leave patient observation and head out to find the rest of the doctors. In the hallway, the Dr. Young speech continues.
Remember, a happy patient is a quiet patient.
Our findings have led to debates about whether psychosis is in itself neurotoxic, and whether potentially damaging changes to the brain are related to the length of psychotic episodes. Project Titan allows us to strengthen the individual's ability to cope with such changes. Early results were promising, but it was only after the arrival of Patient X that our expectations were raised. Patient X was the catalyst that led to a full-scale adoption of the Titan process. We must all thank our benefactors for this opportunity.
We represent all medical specialties and offer a wide range of medical, surgical, diagnostic, and wellness programs. High quality of care, coupled with Arkham Asylum's convenient location, have ensured we are voted the #1 facility in the entire state. Times have changed at this establishment, and through our pioneering techniques, we believe that anyone can be cured.
We hear more about Patient X, who advanced all the progress with Project Titan. Entering the surgery room, we see one of the doctors trapped in a gurney, but no one guarding him. It's already a fishy situation, and I don't see a penguin nearby. Detective mode reveals 8 hostiles above us, so it's an obvious trap. But when it's Batman, it's more of a trap for the thugs. The doctor is called Adrian Chen. He doesn't say much, so we look around the room, though he does say he was tortured, and the bloody scissors on the table do reflect this. There's not much in this room, but there's an Arkham Knight shift whiteboard, which has the date February on it, which suggests that this game takes place during February, but later Arkham Knight with a K, DLC A Matter of Family, which is set a few months before Arkham Asylum, retcons this so the events of Arkham Asylum most likely happened on May. But honestly, I wouldn't even bother trying to work out the timeline because there are so many contradictions between months and even years. But the more interesting part of the whiteboard is Dr. T. Elliot, also known as Hush and Thomas Elliot, who will appear in the series for better or for worse. But scanning it solves a riddle and we get the Hush character bio. We have one more doctor to find, and it's everyone's favourite, Dr. Young. Unfortunately, she is surrounded by armed men and doing the worst possible thing you could do in this situation, which is to keep asking questions and annoy them, which is a surefire way to guarantee yourself a ticket 6 feet under.
I have done exactly as you've asked.
Look, you think I care? Stop your whining and listen good. If anyone goes near you without Joker's express permission, then I've been ordered to make sure you are taken out ASAP. Looks like you're a bargaining chip. Gotta tell you, the boss is all over this job. Planned like a military operation. Friends on the inside and out.
I am quite aware that this job, as you call it, requires friends. What I want to know is why you chose me. Did Joker specify me? Why don't you let me talk to him? I'm sure we can settle this.
Lady, if I have to tell you once more, I am going to hurt you. You understand? Shut the hell up. If the boss wants to talk to you, he'll talk to you. Till then, keep that trap of yours zipped.
Looking at this situation though, the way Dr. Young is acting is very strange. She seems to be either very brave or not fully grasping the situation. Well, anyway, the gameplay here is we have to rescue her without getting seen, or they will kill her in a brutal game over screen. Using detective mode, we see 3 weak walls, conveniently where the armed thugs are standing, of course. We sneak around and place explosive gel on the walls, and then we blow up the walls at the same time, and the debris magically misses Dr. Young, of course.
What's going on? They were talking like they were in control. Is it true that Joker escaped?
Unfortunately, yes. But not for long.
I'd been studying Joker's case for months when he broke out. The warden was very specific he wanted Joker cured.
Bad publicity will affect his campaign for mayor.
That'll be the least of it. God, I almost forgot. They said they were moving through the facility, hunting down the other doctors.
Not a problem. All staff have been rescued. You'll be safer if you remain here.
I'll wait here, but please try and end this as soon as possible.
All the medical staff are safe. Time to continue following Harley Quinn and Gordon's trail.
I can't believe this is happening. I can't stay here all night. I have work to do. How long will this incident go on for? I have work that needs my urgent attention. I can't stay here all night. I have work to do.
The first red flag we get from the conversation from Dr. Young is that she is completely unbothered by the life or death situation she is in. And through the conversation, we find out the main reason why the warden wants the Joker cured, and is to help with his mayoral campaign. Another red flag that Dr. Young raises is her callous personality through the comments about her work. She cares more about the fact she can't get her work done over all her fellow colleagues being murdered. She even berates Batman, telling him to hurry up. So yeah, Dr. Young is more like a Dr. Dung. But now that we've saved all the doctors, we can go back to finding Gordon. We leave the X-ray room and Joker left as a present in the hallway. Approaching the present explodes and out pops a new type of enemy, the high security henchmen. Their main choice of weapon is knives. For these type of enemies, we have to use Batman's cape stun attack. They offer up some variety in combat, but they're not too difficult. The knives do hurt though, and are uncounterable as shown by the red electric bolts that is used for their attacks. We get back into the sanitarium and the doctor's attending to one of the knocked out thugs, who honestly should have been tied up and restrained.
Did you find them? Are they okay?
Yes, they're safe now.
Batman, we've got another problem.
I need to get back to the mansion. All my research notes are there. We can't risk Joker getting his hands on them.
It's not safe, Doctor. The island's a war zone. You won't stand a chance.
It's my life's work. You really don't have the authority to...
I'll get her there, Batman. You ask me, it's about time for a little payback.
While speaking to Sarah Cassidy, the nice doctor, Dr. Young comes barging in demanding that she needs to get to Arkham Mansion. And once again, she doesn't grasp the danger she's currently in and starts arguing with Batman. The Go Aaron Cash offers to get her there, which is an awful idea, but yeah, what the hell. This is interrupted by the elevator appearing, and this cutscene is very interesting because it's one of the longest times Batman will actually speak to a group of NPCs in the entire series. So once again, we do a quick Predator section, then get in the elevator, where Joker gives us a very interesting scenario.
Too easy! Oh, think about it. I've got you trapped in a little metal box, hanging precariously over a deadly drop. What say I just blow the emergency brakes and drop you like a sack of puppies? Say goodnight, Bats. Boom! Only kidding. Got a few more surprises in store for you. Prepare to face your fears. All of them!
And as we descend into the elevator, we see the faint hints of gas. It's very subtle, but when you know about it, you can see it by looking at the TV. More obvious though is Batman coughing. We start hearing screams getting louder and louder as we go further down. What horrors await us at the bottom of the elevator? Well, we're about to find out.
No crane. They're all over me! Only Scarecrow. Get me out of here, please, someone!
Leaving the elevator, we are met with a grisly sight. Scarecrow's voice fills the room and we see his experiments in action. Some poor guards, doctors, and even a lunatic are screaming under the influence of Scarecrow's fear toxin. We only see Scarecrow's shadow in the background before he runs away.
It looks like the good doctor has started early. Your appointment isn't for hours. I'm sure you'll be buzzed through when he's ready. Tell me, Bats, what are you really scared of? Failing to save this cesspool of a city? Not finding the commissioner in time? Me in a thong?
We follow where Scarecrow ran off to and find Gordon begging for help. Before being dragged away off screen, the camera has now shifted into a Dutch angle, which is a slight tilt that's purpose is to create a sense of uneasiness and disorientation. It's the first sign something is wrong, but more obvious is the orange fear toxin eyes of Batman. As we get out of the other side, we see a black trail from where Gordon was dragged. Once again, we know this represents blood, so that can't be a good sign for old Gordon. At the end of the bloody trail lies James Gordon slumped over and dead. Batman has failed. We try to contact Oracle, but the response is a different woman speaking with distorted carnival music in the background.
Barbara, I'm sorry. I was too late.
I'm sorry. The number you've dialed isn't available. Please leave a message after the tone.
Barbara, are you there?
Please hang up your phone.
Detective mode reveals he's dead, but does not show his skeleton. Walking down the corridor, bugs start scattering across the floor. A sound effect cues and more start appearing. They absolutely litter the dirty morgue corridor. And we hear the sound of Batman squishing them as he steps over them, crushing them beneath his feet. The sound is very unpleasant. The only thing we can hear now is the sound of the bugs and the static of a flickering light. But as we open the door, we enter the morgue, and all seems normal at first. Until we hear whispers chanting stuff like "leave" and "you shouldn't be here." It's very creepy and it only gets worse. The morgue lockers start slamming open, then closing. The intensity of this increases with the volume of the whispers getting gradually louder. It creates an atmosphere of something or someone coming for you. As if they or it will pop out of nowhere at any given moment. We listen to the whispers and turn to leave, opening the door only to find that although the whispers have stopped, we are in the same morgue room and now there's 3 wriggling body bags on the tables in the middle. We approach the bags and have the prompt to open them. We unzip them and see Batman's dead dad, Thomas Wayne, and he looks like a zombie. This shows that Bruce still carries the regret of failing to stop the mugger even though he was a young child when it happened. We open the next body bag and his mother, Martha Wayne. She begs us to save her. Then the final body bag. It's now stopped moving, but we approach it and we hear the sound of crows. And as we unzip it, out of the bag we see Scarecrow's demonic face. And let's just talk about the incredible design of Scarecrow here. With the needle arms, the hood and the gas mask, it's one of my favourite Scarecrow designs hand down. Even to the way he moves all twisted like. It's another 20 on the pixel scale. The sight of his face causes us to fall to the ground in fear. We get up, turn around, and we find ourselves...
What happened to our house?
It's the mother of all messes.
Yep. Pure, unadulterated fun without any good sense of judgment.
The asylum has been ripped apart and smashed together haphazardly. The outside world, grey clouds of thunder and lightning and rain. And at the top of the sky, a vortex swirling everything around. This is one really bad trip. Below is another vortex, which I can only assume represents getting lost forever in madness. If we fail, that is. We jump over the broken land and then out of the darkness, needles attached to a massive hand reach over the wall. Until Scarecrow's face, with his glowing yellow eyes with a beam of a searchlight coming out of them, gaze round, looking for us. The game now switches into a 2D perspective and Scarecrow rotates around, and we must avoid his sight at all costs. To achieve this, we make use of crouching behind bits of wall and shimmying across the ledges. The Scarecrow sections require patience, however, and you must look at Scarecrow's pattern to find a window of opportunity, where you will be able to avoid his gaze. If we do get seen, it's an instant death. The way to win the Scarecrow sections is to reach the bat signal at the end. The first Scarecrow section isn't too difficult, the only semi-hard part is to place the explosive gel on a wall and then run back into cover to detonate it. Once we do that, we get a clear run to the bat signal and shine it on Scarecrow's hallucination, blasting it into light particles. I guess this represents Batman's will fighting against the fear toxin. We now return to the morgue and everything is normal apart from it, still being creepy since it's still a morgue. But when we return to the corridor, we find that Gordon is not dead and it was just another unnamed security guard. We'll add him to the list. Scarecrow's section lore-wise is made to slow down Batman and distract him so Joker can keep ahead. But gameplay-wise, it's some of the most memorable parts of Arkham Asylum and offers a nice change of gameplay. So the game doesn't get too repetitive without it becoming a gimmick or overstaying its welcome. In short, it's kind of perfect. We follow the painted arrows in the hallway leading us to our destination and Joker. And Joker once again speaks to us on the TV now.
Your precious police commissioner is just through the glass. Take a look. Harley's under strict instructions to kill the old man if any of my guys even think you're in the room. They're patrolling down there. I've told them all you're on the way. So here's the deal. If you can find a way to get to Harley without anyone realizing, I'll give you your next present. Fail, and the old codger dies. Hell, I may even give you Harley. It looks like you could use a new sidekick.
What's interesting here is Joker mentioning that we could use a new sidekick. This could either be relating to Jason Todd, which would fit in with the overall timeline, or Gordon. It's most likely Gordon, but it could fit with either. The gameplay section here is the classic rescue Gordon without being seen. If we do, Harley shoots him in another brutal cutscene.
Nothing personal, old man.
Do your worst.
I always like game over cutscenes as a way to make you really feel bad for failing instead of, just text popping up. Harley seems to be taunting Commissioner Gordon, but thankfully we can't hear her. The first thing we do is open all the grates so we can move around the small area quickly. I like to do this part without taking any of the guards out since they do despawn once you get to Harley. We get on top of the glass ceiling and take down Harley from above. Down in the small room, we find Bane strapped to the ceiling and the walls.
I thought he broke out of Blackgate.
Cut me down. Who did this to you?
Dr. Young, the Bruja. She drained the venom from my blood. Must stop her.
Sorry, Has-Bane. The good doctor won't be a problem much longer. How do you like my puppet? What say we cut him down?
Gordon, run!
Looks like Dr. Young ain't as innocent as we never thought. Joker presses a button and pumps Bane full of venom, and the first thing he does is try and kill us for no reason. Unfortunately, Bane's characterization through Rocksteady's trilogy is very disappointing. He's really just a drug-addicted brute when, in the comics and Arkham Origins, he's way smarter and a lot more of an interesting character. Here, he's honestly similar to Batman and Robin's interpretation. He throws Batman through a wall and into the boiler room, and we get our next boss. Bane is basically the same as a Titan, and it's also another really disappointing thing. We throw Batman when he charges, and then we beat on him when he's stunned. Doing this, Batman will jump on his back and rip out the tubes with his gauntlet. Joker does try to help Bane by throwing in goons to fight, but Bane takes out the goons as well, so they're not actually that much of a help. Though on harder difficulties, there is a lot more of them. Bane, unlike Titan bosses, will use the venom to heal himself though, so it's slightly different. And he also rips rocks off the walls and chucks them at you. I also think something like DC Rules Bane fight, which the game did come out after Asylum, but the mechanic for that was you were timed to beat Bane before he destroyed the arena, killing you. This would have made sense with him ripping the stones from the walls. But what we get here is a glorified Titan fight. Defeating Bane, the boiler room does collapse on top of us both, and the henchmen who definitely die here. Thankfully, Batman grapples out through a manhole cover. Gordon somehow gets out as well, but thinking about it, the elevator didn't work, so how did he get out? But Bane also shockingly survived and grabs us, so we hit him with our car, and it's kind of awesome.
I will break you, Batman! Then the Bruja!
No, Bane. This time I break you.
But it's also another thing of, how is he alive? We then smartly tell Gordon to get off the island because he's pretty useless. So we put him on a boat with other armed guards, so now we never have to worry about Gordon again.
Gotham will panic. You're needed there.
We're ready to go now, sir.
Bane called Dr. Young Bruja. What does it mean?
It's Spanish for witch.
So from speaking to Bane, we now have to find out more about Dr. Young, or more commonly known as
the Bruja.
She's honestly top 10 witches in gaming when you think about it. So we have a Batcave in Arkham, and honestly this makes a lot of sense. We're also finding out more about Joker's plan, and it involves Bane's venom and Dr. Young, or
the Bruja.
You think Dr. Young's been experimenting with venom? The same chemical that turns Bane into that animal?
Yes, I'm worried. Bane seemed even more powerful than usual. Joker wants the venom, and that can only be trouble.
I'm heading to Dead Man's Point in Arkham North. I'll contact you once I'm in the Batcave.
It's now a good opportunity to head back to the Visitor Center, which has more thugs painting it. Inside the Visitor Center, we listen to a new Joker speech.
You're late for your appointment. Very rude. Well, seeing as you're here now, we might as well get started. Tell me about your childhood. Anything stand out? Ooh, is that a tear I see? Too painful? We'll come back to it later then. How about Baney Boy then? Oh, bet you were shocked to see him, weren't you? Personally, I was hoping he'd fold you up like a piece of paper and let me stamp you crazy. But even I don't get everything I want. So what was he doing here? Oh, questions.
She basically recapped everything we knew so far, but we leave and enter again and we get more dialogue.
You again? You're early. Sit down. I suppose I can squeeze you in. I've been comparing notes with Dr. Crane. He seems a little worried about your progress. According to his notes, you should have come over to our side by now. What is it that keeps you going? Doesn't it ever get boring?
We go in once more and are met by creepy Joker laughter on a loop. This tells us there's no more we can hear here for the time being. Entering back to Arkham East, we are met with a terrible sight as the two guards behind the van have been killed and strung up by their feet. While Batman was dealing with the aftermath of the medical facility, Joker's army had been moving towards the mansion, where Aaron Cash and Dr. Penn Lupi had been heading. We cut down their bodies with the Batarang, and entering Arkham East, there's been another massacre. Every guard we spoke to at the start of the game has been killed. We go past the statue of Warden Sharp and it's burning with furniture on fire below it being the reason. Ahead of us is the mansion, another guard strung up and another dead. One of the thugs is armed. We take them out with the element of surprise though. And then once we enter the mansion, the guard who said he would not let anyone in, well, he's dead. And two thugs begin taunting us from behind an electrified gate.
Bad Batman, come on, tough guy, come and get us.
Oh, look at him, stuck out there. Ain't you got a cat to rescue from a tree or something?
That's right. Go on, get lost. We're in control. Joker will finish you off.
For the time being, it looks like we can't get into the mansion. So we head over to Dead Man's Point, where a lot of inmates who escaped, well, they end their lives there by jumping. So the reason it's called Dead Man's Point and not Alive Man's Point. But now we're going to call it Batman's Point, because this is where Batman made a Batcave under the asylum. We glide into the cave and enter the Batcave too. Really tragic thing to note here is this is the only time we will ever get to go to a Batcave in the Rocksteady trilogy. The only other time is in Origins, and this is just a massive missed opportunity when you think about it. Batcave 2 is relatively small, which makes sense, but it does have nice metalwork walkway and you get soaked by the waterfall. It's almost like a water park, but it's kind of a sad one. We turn on the Batcomputer and learn more about Dr. No Fun's project.
Dr. Young was heading up a project. It was big, lots of external funding. Here are the last notes she filed. Can't make sense of it. What does it mean?
Looks like she was experimenting on the Arkham patients. This new chemical only barely resembles the original Venom compound.
There are a number of changes that appear to amplify the strength of the drug. Multiple references to a Titan formula. Even a small amount could trigger a Venom-like transformation in the host, eliminating the need for the storage tank Bane requires.
Hang on. These notes aren't complete. The formula is missing. That must be the secret Dr. Young is hiding. If Joker gets his hands on this, he will create an army of 1,000 Banes.
My God. Is Joker crazy enough to do that? What am I saying? You've got to stop him.
Yep, experimenting on patients is an abuse of power. That's a red flag. But more importantly, we learn about the Titan formula. It's basically Venom, but without the need of anything to store it in, except instead of making them strong, it makes them strong and into monsters. Seems like someone's been watching Scooby-Doo 2. Dr. P has thankfully done one good thing and hidden the formula, so that's a green flag from her, honestly. Afterwards, we get a new gadget, the Backlaw, which is capable of taking down weak walls, enemies, and boxes. It's only capable of taking down weak walls once you upgrade it. Which, speaking of, we have to use it to gain access to the catacombs, because of course Arkham has catacombs. Are we sure this isn't a horror game? Something this game mentions a lot is thugs having families, which just makes you think how messed up Gotham actually is if these guys have families. In the sewers we find a dead doctor, who probably ran and hid here for safety. To be fair, they probably didn't expect Joker's men to come down into catacombs. We see a sign saying danger, keep out, along with a blinking red light and a submarine looking steel door. So of course, naturally we try to open the door.
I will find you. Rip your flesh like paper.
On the other side is Killer Croc himself, who punches the glass and then threatens us. The game is doing a great job of reminding us in a terrifying way that it's inevitable that we are going to have to face the cannibalistic Crocodile Man. Something that as a kid scared me to my core, and even now it's still pretty terrifying. Walking through the sewers with the steel pipes and valves, we get more information from Oracle about Dr. Y.
Digging deeper into Dr. Young. According to her bank records, there have been multiple payments starting last April until 2 months ago. Then nothing. The payments came from a company owned by Mr. Jack White.
One of Joker's oldest aliases. So, Joker pays Dr. Young to create his army, and then all of a sudden he stops. Doesn't make any...
We found out she had been paid by Joker under an alias to create the army, which still doesn't make what she was doing any less good. She basically was making a monster army for an unknown person. Though in her defense, she did think the Titan was used for strengthening patients to be able to handle more extreme treatments. Don't know how she turned them into monsters from that, but okay. We enter through another steel door and we find ourselves in the main sewer room, which seems to have been built over old ruins, and the building's very old Tomb Raider-like, and we also have to play this section like an old Tomb Raider. Though it's not as nearly as frustrating as that. We find out in more dialogue that Dr. Penelope Y wasn't fully bad and tried to block the payments, but the damage had already been done at this point, and then Joker planned the takeover of Arkham to find the formula and then complete the army. Joker's actually quite a good chemist. It's kind of an underrated thing that most people forget.
Declined. Dr. Young put a block on her account.
Sounds like she had a change of heart. She tried to block the payments. Joker doesn't like it when his partners try to back out.
So he decided to get himself back to Arkham, find his formula, and create the army himself.
Exactly.
I've hacked into her email accounts. 2 mails stand out. The first is a resignation letter dated last week. Sounds like she was trying to get away.
And the second?
A message from Joker, well, Jack White. It's a long thread. She's begging to stop the experiment, says it's too dangerous. He's not listening. Let's see. Random threats to her family, a couple of bad jokes, a picture of a dead baby and a threat.
Go on.
He says, I'm coming for you, I want what I paid for, and then another joke about wheelchairs, lovely, and a drawing of some kind of donkey.
No mystery why she's so scared. I'm coming up to the surface. I'll find her.
But in doing so, since Joker had come to the asylum, it resulted in hundreds of guards and doctors and staff's deaths, so you really can call her a brouhaha.
Brouhaha.
Now that we understand Joker's plan, we have an idea how to stop it, and also where the majority of his army will be heading, in this case, the mansion. We can't use the grapple in this area because the structure is so weak, so we shimmy along and do some old-fashioned platforming. We find an exit to the sewers and end up back at Arkham North through the ruined building at the entrance to the asylum. Rocksteady really made sure that Arkham had a lot of history, and it's just one of the reasons it remains so memorable in a lot of people's, including mine's, favorite Arkham Asylum interpretation in all of DC media. A new enemy type is introduced, and as we come out of the darkness, it's snipers, and these hurt a lot. They also have laser eyesight and goggles that let them see you from very far away, so they're our #1 priority. From up here we can actually see the dome of the Botanical Gardens, one of my favourite building designs in the game. It's another fantastic thing about this game, it all feels really connected. Just now in the sewers we've organically made a shortcut round the asylum, and you can see most major locations from any point of the asylum ground. We eventually make it to the entrance to the mansion, which is now guarded by 2 snipers, but we simply grapple up and take them out silently since they're so focused on staring in front of them. Before entering Arkham Mansion, we take a closer look at the Warden's statue, which has been vandalized with white handprints and a Joker smile. Since we can't enter the mansion from the main entrance, we use the backcloud to pull down a grate, and then we enter from above. We take down the thugs who taunted us earlier with a satisfying glide kick, and then grapple up and through a vent to the main hallway. Joker informs us he has captured Penelope, but they still can't find the Titan documents, so he has all his men tearing apart the place, looking for her and scattering papers and notes and books everywhere. Our objective now is to find the notes before Joker, so we have to beat up all these thugs that are searching. So we take out the 10 thugs. On the hardest difficulty, this section has a lot more enemies than 10. We get our first time to fully appreciate the look of the mansion. It's grand, gothic, and beautiful. The sign of a scarab beetle can be seen in most areas, carved into the metalwork along with Art Deco patterns and the glass windows reaching up to the tall ceiling. We also once again get more Grim Reaper symbols with statues covering the doors at the end of the main entranceway. And at the end of the main entranceway is a statue of Amadeus Arkham, whose mansion was his place of residence before he became an inmate in his own asylum. He's holding a skull and a book in a Shakespearean way. Doesn't this pose look familiar? That's because it's a complete mirror of Joker's character bio art of him holding the skull, and it also ties into the theme of Joker's asylum, with Amadeus being the founder and Joker taking over the asylum. And he's doing the same pose. It's the little details in games that really put it above others. We head to the West Wing corridor, and for once we find a security guard and a doctor alive, but they're about to be murdered, as evidenced by the 2 bodies by our feet.
We're in control. Where did she go?
I don't know.
Answer me!
I said I don't know. She could be anywhere.
Are you looking to die? Are you? I'm not screwing around. Where did she go?
Listen, we tried to tell you. We have no idea where she went.
Maybe you want to think again before I blow your head off. See if that jogs anything loose. Tell me where she is. Joker wants Dr. Young. The longer you take telling me where she is, the more I'm gonna hurt you.
You're not getting out of here, you know. Yeah? Well, you're going down.
Shut up! We've got this whole building locked down.
You really think so? Oh yeah? Wanna think again? Look behind you.
Do I look stupid? Do you think I'm just gonna turn around so one of you lame asses can jump me? Ha! Like that'll happen.
With some great funny dialogue, the security guard and the doctor see Batman about to take out the thug and jokingly warn the thug. This causes the security guard and doctor to start sitting casually as if they don't have a gun pointed at them. What's a really underrated funny part is once knocking out the thug, the orderly does the most chill shrug ever. He's called Kevin Liu. We have a new mechanic now, and they're Joker callers. They make an inhuman laughing sound telling other thugs when we have taken out a fellow goon. This means we can't stay around for too long or take out thugs that are close to one another. What's really scary to think about though is the laughter, which is a modded in sound by the Joker. It resembles laughing, but it's painful. Having to be recorded recently means it's most likely someone's torture screams and crying modified into laughing, which is horrible. We enter the records room, a little nightmares-esque place filled with tons of folders and files. It has the layout of a cross with the metal hallways and just so many filing folders. Aaron Cash and a security guard are strapped to a chair in the middle, and we have 6 armed hostiles around the room. With the new collars, it's going to be a bit trickier. But this Predator arena is also very simple because of the amount of gargoyles and vents everywhere. You can even go through the walkways. Dropping beside Cash, he tells us information we already know, but it's nice that he's trying to help. After clearing the room, we cut Cash and the other guard free.
Thanks.
Where did Dr. Young go?
I told her to run. These guys came in looking for her. I told her to go to her office and hide.
Does she keep her records there?
I guess. She was pretty desperate to get in there. Her office is over there.
How long ago was this? I need to find her notes before Joker gets his hands on them.
20 minutes, maybe more. What's so important about the notes?
Joker wants them. That makes them important. Stay here. I'm going to find her.
Not a problem. I'll try the radio, see if anyone else is around.
I should have done something. Thanks for the help. Joker's free. I could have stopped him.
The guard and the other doctor from before come in, and I'm assuming they tie up the goons. The other guard turns out to be Zach Franklin, who we met earlier during the Zaz scenario. We leave the hallway and find Amadeus Arkham's cell, which has the rule suckles drawn all over the walls. Seems they kept Amadeus Arkham in the mansion when he went mad, away from the other inmates. Moving along, we come across Dr. Pretty Young's office, where she went inside. 3 thugs are attempting to break in. Seems the office has better security than the whole island. Behind some bars that is near the office is a gurney with a head strap and padded walls. It's almost like a museum for the Arkham Asylum. The amount of notes and filing cabinets around the mansion is one of the more fantastical design choices because convenience-wise, it's kind of awful for anyone trying to find anything basic like a doctor's appointment. Even stranger is beside his office is a full-on morgue, and what's worse is an actual body in this one, belonging to none other than Raz or Ra's al Ghul. I would say Raz, but in City he calls it Ra's, or more importantly, why does she have a morgue? She's a psychiatrist, and has Raz ever been appointed to Arkham Asylum? Well, it doesn't matter anyway, because he's dead and he won't come back. We pull off a vent and climb through, but notice half-eaten rats in this particular vent. Also believe from escaping inmates who would rather live in eating rats than suffer the treatments from the asylum. Yeah, that's a terrifying thought. It also explains why we sometimes find human remains in the form of bones and skulls in some vents. But we make it into the witch's office. So she now has the note, which if the not-so-good doctor was smart, she would destroy the notes, destroying the work she created about saving lives, but nope, she's still selfish. We track her fingerprints, and now we have to find Dr. Young's journal and her notes. Hanging on her wall is Black Mask's mask, another villain who typically is not put in Arkham Asylum, but possibly during the transfer from Blackgate he was put here. And Penelope might have treated him and taking his mask. What a... Entering back into the main hall, some of the Joker's army have found our previous work of unconscious henchmen. They also mentioned Zaz, which last we saw was knocked out, hinting that he's in the mansion somewhere. We now head to the south corridor and get a small tutorial on corner cover and batarangs. This will come in handy later, I'm sure. Before leaving the room, we look around and find some of the Penguin's umbrellas, and his top hat. He will sadly never wear this in the series. We then enter the library, and the library design is really cool. It was almost a clock face. It's a full circular room with rows and rows of books going upwards, and a beautiful glass circular floor at the bottom. We grapple up and enter a vent, ignoring the thugs, and skip the dialogue to get some hidden dialogue, since Joker is meant to inform us about a bomb that's strapped to the guards, and then start a timer. But since we already know, we can skip ahead, and Rocksteady planned for it. The dialogue also reacts to us leaving the henchman alive, or unconscious. But it's just so cool that they did this.
Welcome to the Arkham Library. History is so important. A dramatic event here, a murder there. Enough. Reading the last page first? Shame on you! Well, here's the punchline. 2 minutes, and the giggle gas goes boom, permanently cheering up those miserable doctors. Tick tock, tick tock. You guys are a disgrace. You let them get away. What kind of henchman are you anyway? Just get out of my sight. Don't hide. Whatever. I'll see you later.
Sadly though, we have to use a batarang to cut the beautiful chandelier with the brain design on top and crash it into the beautiful glass floor we were appreciating earlier, which smashes it in 2 pieces. The present says do not open before April 1st, hinting that the bomb isn't actually deadly. And sure enough, a Joker fist comes flying out, but no deadly gas. See, that's the neat thing about this game, that it gets right about Joker. He's completely unpredictable. If his gags are actually going to be deadly or not, or even if he's trying to kill Batman or just prank him and distract him. It really gets Joker perfect. We get another name of a guard called Bill, who informs us that he overheard them taking Dr. Young to the warden's office. We now use detective mode and the fingerprints, and we find a suspicious book with the notes inside. The funny thing to think about here is that even if Joker's thugs found this, they wouldn't be able to understand it or even realize that this is the notes because they can't read. So the search has been pretty pointless. But more importantly, our favourite Bruja is now in danger from Zsasz, who, unlike everyone else, can't really control the urge to not kill, so I guess we gotta save her.
No, not the formula. What am I going to do? Who can help me now? What's that? How about our old friend Zsasz? I did bump into him on the way back from the gardens, when no doubt he was acting out some twisted fantasy. Maybe he could get her talking? I think he probably can. Great plan, that.
We exit the door, but not before a gas leak makes Batman cough. Yeah, we know what's happening now. And a scarecrow laugh as we leave pretty much confirms it. The hallway text says Wayne Manor, and as we walk down the hallway, lightning flashes and it starts raining indoors. Soon water starts falling from the walls and objects from an infamous alleyway appear. Batman starts hearing his mother and father on that fateful night, the night his parents were murdered. The furniture keeps moving and the hallway is now completely soaked, and a familiar sign appears stating Crime Alley. Each lightning the flash is causing the hallway to transform into that infamous Crime Alley. One more flash and the hallway is now fully transformed. The mugger speaks in a demonic sound, and with each gunshot the bins explode as Batman stumbles and falls to the ground beside his parents' corpses. One more flash and Batman turns into Bruce Wayne as a child.
Come on, kid, this way. Take a seat in my office.
Is he okay? He'll be fine. Kid like that with all that money, he'll be just fine.
Shut up, now. He's 8 years old and all alone. Money won't fix that.
Whatever you say, Gordon. His butler's on his way to pick him up. You hear that? He's got a butler.
I'm sorry about that. I just need to ask you some questions. Can I get you anything? You okay? I know you don't feel like answering me, but it's the only way to catch who did this.
Why did you do it, officer? Why?
I don't know. It's this city. There's something wrong with it. And listen, son. Call me Jim.
And after listening to Bruce's first encounter with Jim Gordon, we transform back into adult Batman and exit the hallway, ending up back into Scarecrow's nightmare world. This one having a clockwork theme, which will make sense later on. The notes are flying around everywhere, and we see a twisted form of the Arkham Mansion. Then the giant Scarecrow appears, and once again we get put back into the 2D section. This involves us using the backlot to make our own cover this time. It also has combat sections where Scarecrow injects the ground, creating skeletons that attack us like thugs. And when beating them, they turn into a pile of bones. During the lightning flashes, our character model sometimes changes into Scarecrow, showing Batman falling closer into madness. We eventually come to a part with a swinging clock pendulum. We fall, but we have an escape prompt. The next time we go past it, we make a run for the bat signal and blast Scarecrow with light, getting him out of our mind.
There you are.
When we come to, we are now at the top of the clock tower, hence why Scarecrow's world was themed after clockwork.
Seen the bat? Come on! Someone must have seen where it went. Big scary man. Wears a cape. Jumps out of the shadows and
It's locked. I need to find another way
Anyone?
down.
No? Good.
Zsasz has Dr. Young trapped in the warden's office. I've got to get out of here.
And it's at this point you realize that Scarecrow's toxin actually affects Batman while he's moving around. It's not just in his mind, he's actually doing all the platforming and fighting. And the skeletons were thugs, so they're just seeing Batman do weird stuff and then getting beaten up by him. What's more impressive though is how Batman even got to the top of the clock tower, considering the hatch to get in is locked, and through the platform, and I don't remember going that far up. Unfortunately, to get out the clock tower, we have to vandalize the mansion even more and cut down the bell, once again crashing it into the ground. Thankfully, no guards were down there, we'd never checked. And also, we've probably done more damage to the mansion than Joker has at this point. The bell smashed and has opened access to the East Wing corridor, where we get introduced to another new enemy type, the Stun Baton enemy, who will show up in all Arkham games. The way to beat them is to double tap evade over them and then strike them from behind.
I've been waiting for you, listening to Zaz make the good doctor scream while you played around in Scarecrow's world. How was it this time? Learn anything about yourself? Oh, tell me. Put up a seat. Talk to me. I'm all ears. Actually, that reminds me. I could have sworn I heard Zaz cutting her ears off. Certainly sounded like it.
Zaz has been torturing Dr. Buha to get the formula out of her, but before that, we find Catwoman's goggles and claws in a display. Now, Catwoman arguably has the best pixels in the Arkham series, and an interesting thing to note here is she never gets put in Arkham Asylum normally. You know, since she's not actually insane, and she's barely a part of the Rogues Gallery evildoers. Her gloves and claws here don't actually differ too much from the actual goggles she has in City, compared to someone like the Penguin, who his design is completely different. We then go into the bathrooms where Joker Thug is found and killed a hiding guard. He's silently kicking the body, which is very weird. He also doesn't have any dialogue. We see more blood splatters on the walls, so we can assume this was probably quite a brutal fight. Opening the door to the warden's office, we agree to the horrible sight of Zaz holding Dr. Penloopy. She looks noticeably different with her mascara running down her face from her tears, and she's finally acting like someone who's in a dangerous situation. This is a big improvement for her.
You are Batman. Listen to me carefully.
Help me! Please, somebody help me!
Come any closer, and I'll paint the room crimson with her blood.
And the Oscar goes to... the Bruja!
We have to take out Zaz with the corner cover Batarang we learned not so long ago. We won't. We want to hear the dialogue, don't we?
Zaz, what are you talking about? Just kill her. She's useless to me now.
But if I kill her, the bat will get me.
No, you're not scared of a little bat, are you, Slicey?
Stay back, Batman! I mean it. See the veins in her neck throbbing. I can smell her sweat and tears as they run over her flesh.
That's the spirit! Now stick it to her!
I need to make the kill. I can't wait. She's just begging to be slaughtered. Good night, Miss.
And Joker says to kill her, but he's not going to do that. Oh.
Now that was unexpected. Who'd have figured a deranged murderer would kill the poor little doctor?
Yeah, no, he makes sense with what he says there. That's my bad, honestly. So we rewind time, and instead we chuck the Batarang with more force than usual so we can hit Zaz out cold. Dr. Penelope decided to try killing him with her fist, but she is too underleveled to do any significant damage. She does the one useful thing though and tells us about a lab in the gardens.
Stop now.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
I saw Bane.
I know. Joker threatened me. I wanted to stop the experiment. I tried to give him his money back.
Joker doesn't take no for an answer.
He wants an army, a horrible twisted force to destroy Gotham, but he couldn't do it without the formula. I hid it, but...
So now he has Venom and your formula.
God, he has gallons of the stuff. There's a lab, hidden in the gardens. It's locked off, but the security key codes for the entire island are in the warden's safe.
What else is Joker planning?
How should I know? You think anything he says makes sense? I think he's insane.
Ah, she's a genius.
But alas, Dr. Young would not get to become Dr. Old, as Harley Quinn rigged the safe to explode.
Oh my God!
Get out of the way!
But while Dr. Penelope wasn't a saint, her death is a tragedy. Till you find out what she did in Arkham Knight DLC. But that's so far away. We can only judge her for her sins in this game, in which she kind of started everything that went wrong. When we come to, we see Harley Quinn again, and she breaks the Arkham cane on the Warden, and then we beat up the thugs that she left behind. We scan the DNA on the cane for Quincy Sharp, and once again we have a trail to follow. But we should pay our respects. We look over at Penelope's charred and exploded body, and so ends the journey of the Buha. A doctor who thought she could cure everyone by creating a formula that turned people into monsters. She only really cared for her work and would harm others to do it. Her actions in this game, however, will live on, as she is the catalyst of almost everything that happens in the Arkham series. By creating Titan, she will cause many events, both good and bad. And at the end of the day, she was a great written character who will be missed. And her legacy will forever be cemented in Arkham. In this case, quite literally cemented. But we must move on. Her part of the story is over, and Joker now has the Titan formula, so we have to stop him as soon as possible. First, we gotta find the famous Easter egg. We plant 3 explosive gel on a random plain-looking wall in the Warden's office, and it reveals a hidden room inside. We find concept art for the sequel, Arkham City, already being planned. From the early concept art, it also seems like the asylum was meant to be a part of it. We leave and return to the main hall and take out the 3 armed guards. Then, we simply leave through the main entrance, leaving behind the mansion and all the madness that went on inside of it. We now are following Harley's trail once again. She really loves to capture people in this game. It leads us to a tunnel where thugs have tried blocking it from us.
Joker tells us to kill the bat, we kill the bat.
Joker told me to kill my sister once.
Did you do it?
Hell yeah! Never liked her anyway.
Oh, man. Funny thing, he said the same to me. I told him I didn't even have a sister. He just kept telling me to do it. So I got in my car and ran over the first bitch I saw. Joker seemed happy.
Ha ha. He's a barrel of laughs. Kind of a mystery, you know? I mean, don't get me wrong, but he acts all crazy one minute, and then the next he's all plans and jobs. Who knows what goes on in that head?
Not our problem. But if he sends Harley back down here, we'll really be in trouble. Anyone got anything to drink?
Nope. Got a handful of meds from a dead nurse back in medical. Took them, not even a buzz. Where was she taking the Warden anyway?
Would you all just shut the hell up? This is supposed to be an ambush!
Yeah. Just wanted something to take the edge off, you know?
Just keep it down! I don't want to take any chances.
So that was more dialogue suggesting just how horrible and evil these people are. So we beat them brutally, then enter Arkham West, and we've completed all routes around the asylum. Above the penitentiary building is a burning ambulance, as if there wasn't a clear sign where Joker's army were. The ambulance falls over and explodes in front of us. We get more radio announcements, but this time it's the Warden being forced to read dark jokes from the Joker. Before we get to the penitentiary, we go back to the visitor center to listen to more dialogue.
I am afraid I cannot attend your appointment today, but Dr. Quinzel has kindly offered to sit in.
Stupid bat, always bothering Mr. J with your problems. You'll never be as dreamy as him. You're just an ugly, stupid bat in a trap.
Well, we got to see Harley on the TV, so that's cool. At the front door of the penitentiary, a group of thugs are beating up a doctor. But they're still alive. We beat them up, attempting to throw one off the edge. It doesn't work though. It will work later though. And speak to the orderly they were beating up.
Thank you, Batman. The guard wouldn't have lasted much longer.
Is he okay?
He struck his head when they knocked him to the ground.
Move him away from here as soon as you can. Take him to the medical facility. It's the safest place on the island.
Okay. I'll go with him as soon as he's able to stand.
From the orderly, we get some information, since now that we know that Joker's plan isn't just to kill the whole island, but it's to make the Titan formula, the medical facility is probably the safest place on the island, since there's no real reason for Joker to go back there or send his army there at all.
Doesn't look serious. He should wake up any time now. I managed to...
It's quite ironic that one of the biggest massacre areas has become the safest place on the island. However, this brings up one of my biggest criticisms with Arkham Asylum, and it's surprisingly the characterization of Batman. See, Batman's not that great a superhero here. It would be nice if in this game we saw him do more superhero things, like save more people and make sure they're saved. He's so obsessed with catching Joker that a lot of people are dying that did not need to die. Like in this scenario, Batman should escort this orderly and the unconscious guy to the medical center, since Joker's men, while normally focused on one area, do have some that patrol randomly and kill randomly. It's his job to keep people safe, and I know this sounds like a nitpick, but you might get a better idea of what I'm talking about in a bit. So we leave the unconscious guard and orderly with the unconscious killers, and we enter the penitentiary. Greeted immediately by dead guards and tons of bullets. It's great, it's another massacre area. But these bodies are really close together instead of spread out like usual. Now, how this game got a teen rating, it really does shock me. And as we get closer to the door at the end, we start hearing screaming. Faint at first, but building up louder. The door scans us here different than usual. This area has a different feel to it than others. The door opens and red lights are spinning round and round. The screams suddenly start getting louder as we walk towards the cause of them. The screams are almost unhuman and guttural sounding now. Alarms start blaring as we end up at another door, and on the other side, the source of the screaming. We enter and see true horror. Humans caged with electric paneled floors. Inmates that can barely function as a human. If we get close, they try grabbing at us. Their mouth and eyes pulled open by nails, like the scene from A Clockwork Orange. There's hundreds of them here, hidden away in this building, inmates more insane than the others. Some have killed one another in their own cells. We come across a guard who mysteriously is still unconscious. Again, it doesn't take the world's greatest detective to see leaving an unconscious person on an electrified panel that's currently off, but of which is in control by a mad murderer, is not a great idea. Now, this is obviously a very dramatized version of mental health, and it's a very comic booky choice for the lunatics. But we exit the nightmarish room and enter the Green Mile, where we get the best damn good pixels in the entire game. And as a certified pixel appreciator, let's appreciate this design for a bit. This is without a doubt my favorite Poison Ivy design ever. She looks so unhuman and demon-like, but still a seductress. I've always been more of a fan of the green skin Poison Ivy look, and I feel it's better when she doesn't look too human, but more of a mixture of plant. It's a weird sentence to say. Someone looks like a mixture of a plant, but that's the best way to describe this Ivy. Her hair in this is so shiny and red, and it flows almost like it has a life of its own, and her eyes are such an unnatural shade of green that look like pure old school poison you'd find in an RPG game. The Arkham shirt is a nice touch as well to fit in with the Asylum theme of the game, and if it didn't get any better, one of the more cool ways to use the plant motif is by making the vines in her skin look like sick tattoos. This design is incredible, and it of course gets a 20 out of 20 on the pixel rating scale, and becomes one of my favourite character designs with a CyberLocky seal right there for my personal favourite designs. Shared within this game, Joker, Scarecrow, Batman, and possibly more characters, because this game just has great character design. But we listen to Poison Ivy crying about plants like usual.
Stop, Batman, please! You've got to help my baby!
I'm really not interested in a bunch of flowers, Ivy.
They're in pain, crying for help!
Just stay where you are. Last thing I need is you running free.
Poor children. I'll save you. Everyone will pay.
And she sits back down in her cell. Now, I don't have to mention how weird these crying sounds are, but let's just say this game got a teen rating. The cell is pretty much a glass dome with a red light everywhere inside of it. They really give Ivy a unique and alien looking cell. And using detective mode, we can see lunatics and small cells that are in the walls. We enter the security control room in front of us, and a cell with dusty looking handprints that's all over the glass and a mannequin inside. But also inside is Aaron Cash. But before we can find a way to help him, we look to our right and see a danger sign saying, "Inmate may be impersonating other personnel." Turning on detective mode reveals that he has no skeleton at all. We ignore them and walk up to where we hear Warden Quincy Sharp. Now, why Warden Quincy Sharp was left is a bigger mystery, but he's here for some reason. Joker locks us in and closes the security gate.
help me.
Ivy? Gee, you look like crap. Maybe I can sneak you some shampoo.
The plants, can't you hear them? They're crying out to me in agony.
Yeah? Well, I really don't have time for this.
Please let me out. They'll die without me.
I don't know, Red. You're not on Mr. J's party list. Oh, well.
Please!
What the heck? I'll cut you a break.
That feels so much better.
She's a good kid.
I could watch those two all day. What a riot! And speaking of riots, here's a bit of civil unrest I cooked up just for you.
But then, Joker unleashes all those lunatics in the cells to wander around the whole of the island. We rescue Warden Sharp, who had been mysteriously left here by Harley.
He's taken control of the security overrides. I have the sequence generator, but without the terminal in my office, it's useless.
Your terminal has been destroyed. Give me the sequencer.
What? Oh, yes, of course. It's useless. Half the code won't get you anywhere. We're trapped in here.
He looks very beaten up. Looks like Harley did a number on him, and not the good kind. Gives us security codes, and we pull out a new gadget. The cryptographic sequencer. Not used for cryptocurrency as you would assume, but this tool is better because instead of scamming you, it helps you break into security gates. And of course there's a bat signal on it. A fun thing about this gadget is the way to use it will change with every game in the Arkham series. In this one we have to tune the frequency with a controller using left and right analog and hold it down when it's green. It's actually very satisfying. We leave the warden behind, and he actually tried hiding, a concept unknown to most of the guards in this game. Going back, the shapeshifting inmate has turned into Quincy Sharp, though his shapeshifting isn't that good since he didn't add the injuries. He probably didn't see them. We turn around and hear a gloopy sound and see Jim Gordon in the cell. But now he only laughs. This is obviously Clayface, another one who we might see later, but who can really tell since he could be anyone, for all we know. Before leaving though, there's one more secret above the exit door, and it's another lunatic who looks very different than all the other ones. This is because he's actually a real person who won a contest and got their likeness put into the game, and they were turned into a lunatic. Well, having your likeness in the game's good, but it's not exactly going to be a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, is it? Going back into the Green Mile, we can look at all the cells, and a no plant sign on the floor. As we reach the door, a lunatic jumps out and becomes a new enemy type. They sprint at you and you must counter quickly and ground take down them to knock them out. Failing to do so will let them latch onto you and they will beat you, draining your health rapidly. Entering the main room, all the lunatics have escaped and Harley Quinn once again shows up and does her classic acrobatics, then turns on the electric panels, killing the guard, who we could have saved. We grapple to the top and hear more alarms. There's new stuff in combat now with gun lockers. Enemies will attempt to break open lockers and equip guns, but we actually do have some time to knock them back if we can do it quick enough. In this combat scenario, Harley is actually swinging on a light in front of us, and she'll taunt us occasionally while we fight. Once we take out her men, she jumps and flips down into another hallway and activates the security gate on the walls. Before we follow her, we look at the walls, and there's Latin writing here, saying Mors Seta Horror Incerto. I probably butchered that. But it translates to death is certain, it's ours and certain, which is a very strange saying to have in a mental hospital / prison. Hanging on the same wall is Scarface's Tommy gun labelled the Ventriloquist. Now Scarface belongs to the Ventriloquist, or does Ventriloquist belong to Scarface? Who really knows? We hack the panels and then turn off the electric. We jump down to the guard we left to die, expecting to see another deceased on the detective mode, but are shocked to see he's only unconscious, and he must be the toughest guard in the game to survive that many electric shocks. Whether a mistake from Rocksteady or not, I'm gonna leave it that he lives because we need more happy stuff in this game. We find Calendar Man's cell with calendar dates everywhere. Another one of the underrated Batman villains. Passing more cells, we find Harley Quinn behind a glass panel. She's strung 2 guards up, hanging over electrified water.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
Look who's finally turned up, the Dark Knight himself. How's it hanging, Babs? Got a little problemo for you. See those 2 guards over there? I know. Shocking. How you gonna save them?
Once we do this though, she adds a 2-minute timer, which causes a lot of stress because, let's face it, you add a timer to anything and it makes a player stressed.
2 minutes and counting. Where can I get me one of those? Louis Green. Question, can you get it down before it comes back up? One down, one to go.
Once freeing Louis Green and the other guard, she changes the last timer to 30 seconds, ramping up the heart rate of all players even more than she already has.
30 seconds to get out. Bye-bye.
We're trapped.
Quick, get out! Move it! Get out of here now! Oh, I thought we were both gonna die in there.
You're safe now.
You going after that crazy witch?
Green, say it right, it's
Bruja.
Louis Green is cool because he reminds me of the classic cops from Batman the Animated Series, though that might just be the accent. Weirdly, returning to the main cell block, there's now 2 unconscious guards on top of each other. I actually don't know how to explain this, it just seems like a glitch. We find more cells, including Two-Faces, aka Harvey Dent, who has their Vote Dent poster up. We then catch up with Harley Quinn in Extreme Incarceration, which has a watchtower observation in the middle with 3 electric panel floors and cells that are hanging over darkness. A very common thing in this mental hospital/asylum. At the top is Harley Quinn. We now have a semi-boss fight, fighting goons of enemies while switching floors depending on which one lights up. It's very classic video game. But a fun thing you can do in this game is use the special combo throw to chuck enemies off the edge and kill them. Now, canonically that's not true, but let's be honest, no one's surviving that fall. There's only certain areas in each Arkham game that you can actually technically kill people, but the Asylum throw did make it a lot easier than others, because after this, most of the time, they put an invisible wall. This boss fight isn't hard and we beat it relatively quickly. Then Harley Quinn runs and flips at us and we get a Harley Quinn boss fight.
He's done it again. I don't believe it. I'm on my way now.
Oops, change of plans, kiddo.
But I tried my best.
Sorry, but there is no prize for second place. I'm afraid you're off the party list. Better luck next time.
No!
Die, you big ugly bat! Hey, hands off the merchandise! That's my party list!
Quiet. Why the smiles next to certain names?
You're the detective, you tell me! Huh?
Get it!
You won't find Mr. J. He's in the secret lab in the gardens and... oh, crap!
Yep, I know.
Damn! Well, he'll get me out, you'll see! Yeah. You'll see.
No, we slam into a wall and throw in a cell, but not before grabbing the party list, and we get some fun names here. Crossed out are people who won't be coming to Joker's party, namely Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, Two-Face, the Mad Hatter, Oswald Cobblepot the Penguin, and Arnold Wesker, aka the Ventriloquist. The people who show up will be Basil Karlo, Clayface, who we saw earlier, and Waylon Jones, Killer Croc, who we have still yet to face and don't want to face. Batman, shockingly, somehow doesn't work out what the smiles mean, which is genuinely the easiest thing to work out. This also doesn't ever mean anything, so it's just kind of weird to have this dialogue. That's the end of Harley Quinn's role in the game, and let me tell you about one of the worst parts of the whole Arkham series, and that's the characterization of Harley Quinn. She's treated as a bad joke and is more of a joke than the Joker in this series. She's literally in this series to be punched and thrown around and be eye candy, which would be fine if she had any development through the games, especially with the potential. She gets to the end of City, but that's way too far ahead. But I do really want to see how she goes from the end of Night to a main protagonist in the Suicide Squad game, where she seems more intelligent. That's a big leap for her character that in my opinion is not earned. But again, we're still currently at the asylum. Ollie is now crying in the cell, but when using detective mode, she shows up as calm. She also checks to see if Batman is falling for her terrible pity party, but it doesn't work obviously. Overall, this boss semi-boss fight wasn't that bad, it just wasn't memorable and should have been a Harley Quinn boss fight. But it doesn't really make the penitentiary all that memorable as other areas, which is sad because it had a lot of interesting ideas like the lunatics. Looking at other cells, we find Mr. Freeze's obviously covered in tons of ice and cold air's coming out of it. We start heading out the penitentiary now and Joker's already been making the Titan chemical in his secret lab in the gardens. We return to the main cell block and the unconscious guard is back to just being one. And before we leave, we have more Latin to translate. On the ceiling and top wall is the phrase that will be badly pronounced by me, non compos mentis actus non facit rimnis. You know what, I'm using a translation and pronunciation for this is ridiculous.
Non compos mentis actus non facit reum nisi mensa sit re.
But this basically means an action performed by someone insane cannot be a crime unless the mind is guilty, which further means that if they are not in control of their mind, they cannot be guilty of a crime. It's the standard common law test of criminal liability, the use of the plea of insanity during a trial. Which brings up an interesting point. Is Joker actually insane? The obvious reaction is, of course he's insane. Look at what he does during the game and the comics and everywhere. But he's more called insane, as people can't seem to understand how a human can be so evil and commit such horrible acts. But he doesn't seem to actually have anything wrong with him in terms of being unable to not commit the crimes, unlike Zsasz, who physically can't control his urges to not kill. Joker seems to be fully aware of all actions he commits, which means he shouldn't be able to pass the plea of insanity, but he always does. But then we also have direct evidence from Dr. Young's notes in the physical collector's edition of the journal, who for all her faults, still was a smart psychiatrist. And she says in her notes that while he displays signs for many disorders, he also doesn't display important signs for each and contradicts all diagnosis. And she herself wonders if he's actually insane, only contradicting this when she's reacting to his cruelty, which is hard to comprehend and only when it affected her. So is Joker actually insane, or is Joker only pretending to be insane? I don't know which is scarier, but either way he would be classed as a psychopath and legally not classed as insane in a court of law. But Gotham's corrupt, so who knows what goes on there. But it's the phrase underneath that's more strange. Homo homini lupus, which translates to man is a wolf to man. Which means humans are predators to other humans and act savagely like animals towards one another. It's not a hopeful phrase in this place, but even worse is the other writings which translate to, we are here to punish the insane, not cure them. This penitentiary is here as punishment. There is no attempts to cure anyone in this building, instead they're locked away to be forgotten by society. But this scenario is quite frankly crazy and quite frankly insane to think about. This wouldn't happen in real life, would it? Well, sadly, fiction often mirrors reality, and Arkham Asylum is based on an actual place in real life called Bedlam, or sometimes known as Bethlem Royal Hospital, England's first asylum, opening in London in 1247. Back then, mental health was thought to be a disease of the body and not of the mind, so treatments were horrific and the conditions were absolutely monstrous. I'm not going to go into further detail here because that would be too off topic from the video game. But Bedlam isn't the only asylum Arkham was based on. Since Arkham was based on the original Lovecraftian Arkham, which was most likely based on Danvers State Asylum, which has its own horrible histories, as sadly do most asylums in history. Now it's been turned into apartments so you can live beside the Arkham Asylum. I mean, come on, it has a pool. As we come to the exit of the penitentiary, we hear Jack Ryder on the radio once again. He's hosting his show and speaking about the events going on at Arkham.
Jack, we're seeing that all access to the island has been restricted. Police and state troopers are manning checkpoints.
That's correct. The island is effectively cut off from the mainland. Nothing on or off. Early reports that Batman himself is on the island appear to be confirmed. Eyewitness reports state that he was returning the Joker to Arkham after the incident at the mayor's office. There are unconfirmed reports that Batman was killed during the Joker's daring escape. But I must stress, this is currently unconfirmed. More as it happens. Back to the studio.
Thank you, Jack. We'll bring you more as it happens. As Jack said, we do not know for certain, but it appears Batman may have been killed in the breakout attempt. Stay on this channel for the latest news. Now, back to the scheduled program.
Ending it with some classic fear-mongering. It's typical news and media. And then we escape the penitentiary and return to a site that not too long ago I was talking about. Outside is the orderly from earlier, dead with a lunatic over him. This from Batman is inexcusable. He left the orderly in a dangerous situation where he could have easily taken him to safety in the medical center. But instead, he has once again left them to be killed, failing to be a superhero, and the poor orderly has been savagely killed like an animal does to its prey. Man is a wolf to man. The status of the island has now changed. It's no longer just the guards versus the Blackgate prisoners. The lunatics are now finding and killing everyone, with overwhelming numbers and brutality. For once, the inmates do run the asylum, and they're basically the equivalent of fast zombies.
Where are these things coming from? They're all over me. They're all over the...
Looking around the asylum grounds, it's just lunatics running around aimlessly. It's a complete tonal change in the game. From Joker's army invading each area to now, frankly, downright insanity. Joker's trying to get prisoners to become the test subjects for Titan, and he's getting even more cocky and confident. Time is running out to stop him, and once again, he's one step ahead of Batman. We now look at the statue of the Warden, and a lunatic is on top of the statue's head. We can knock the lunatic off with the remote control Batarang upgrade, and it will knock them out instantly. We then make our way over to the last unexplored building in the asylum, the Botanical Gardens. Inside we find the guard that was defending the place dead, as well as another, both posed and killed by Zsasz, as was mentioned earlier by Joker. It's a very disturbing sight since they look like they're peacefully reading. It reminds you that Zsasz might be the worst of all in here, and it's not the last time we'll find his dead victims posed. 2 armed prisoners guard the doors and we take them out, but not exactly silently. Then we hack our way into the Botanical Glass House. We check detective mode and it's a predator section. Already the structure of this area is a circular dome with gargoyles everywhere, with 3 stories of catwalks, and there's no real reason to ever be on the ground. Not only is it bad tactically, but there's not much room to move, with a statue blocking the way. Apart from that, there is some small vent areas. We clear the room with ease and then get to appreciate the design of the glass house. The Botanical Gardens is my favorite building in the game, and it's the one I picture most when thinking about Batman Arkham Asylum as a game. It's a location that doesn't really have an equivalent in any other video game. It also has the advantage of looking like the Royal Botanical Gardens in Edinburgh, which is close to home for me. In the middle of the glass house is a statue that, now that I think about it, kind of resembles Aquaman with a trident. However, the wings on the back disprove this, as well as a snake wrapped around the lower torso. The face of the statue seems to have been damaged, and the eyes do sort of resemble a domino mask. Overall, I don't know what this statue is meant to be, but it's very nice. The metalwork around looks like vines twisting into each other, and the place is flooded with all kinds of plants and leaves. We spot a suspicious looking tea party in a wall with a kettle and tea cakes. Listening to the music, it sounds like a creepy tune on a piano coming from a music box. I don't know how to describe this tune apart from it sums up the entire atmosphere of this place perfectly. It's almost sad sounding, yet peaceful and creepy at the same time. It's perfect. Researching a bit more into it, the actual song that's playing is a mixture of French Suite No. 2 in C minor, which is a name in itself. I'll link it in the description, but I swear it's also mixed with the Arkham tune motif. It's that main tune of those main notes that you hear in all Arkham games. We scan the tea party and it's been left behind by Mad Hatter, one of the more underrated Batman villains once again, who should really be brought to life in a Batman movie by now. We exit through the door, and the bench in front of us is in memory of Thomas and Martha Wayne. Scanning it unlocks the bio, and the next room is the Glasshouse Generator Room. Inside, thugs are tormenting a poor worker.
I'm not important. I can't help you. You're lucky the boss don't want you hurt too bad. Said something about you being the perfect bait. Don't get it. You're nothing special. Who's gonna save you?
Yeah, and just in case someone does decide to try, we're ready and waiting.
But
Batman will stop you. You know he will.
The Bat. You see he go over there? He has a thing for blades.
We beat the thugs and rescue the worker and find out his name is Carl Todd.
Thanks. Are you okay?
I'm fine. I eat punks like these for breakfast. What were they doing in here?
The ones that weren't hitting me went over there and started doing something to the power controls. I have no idea what they were doing.
So honestly, with that kind of name, he deserved to be beaten up. We hack the electric gate in the room, and it's a lot of Joker graffiti in here. We return and then hack the actual generator, and it's been Joker booby-trapped, of course. But we pass the 3 checks, and we turn off the generator. We get some dialogue from Joker saying that we are one step ahead, because at the time of first playing this game, you have no idea why you've turned off this generator. Doing so actually causes one of the coolest sequence breaks in the game.
Well, aren't you the persistent one, Bats? Always one step ahead. It won't be long before I have an army of Titan monsters at my fingertips. Ooh, just imagine me being carried through the streets, stepping over the corpses of all those innocent citizens. It's going to be glorious. Oh, I can't wait.
And it's also one of the only moments in the game where your choice affects the outcome depending on if you turn off the generator first. Rocksteady really thought about the game of replaying the game with the knowledge and made fun little sequence break dialogue and events for the players. See, it's the extra detail, the extra passion that makes a game a masterpiece.
You need to stop this now, before it goes too far.
At this rate, you'll never catch me!
The cutscene though is really strange if you do this, since without the electric water, Batman could just make a run for the Joker at this point. But if we didn't turn the power off and we went here first, we do get a different cutscene.
You need to stop this now, before it goes too far.
Stop? But everyone's dying to see what I do next.
Let him go now.
Really? Okay, if you say so, then. Whoopsie! No! You really need to speed things up, Bats. At this rate, you'll never catch me!
In this scene, Joker kills a guard with the electricity, but since this never happens, the guard lives, and he actually has a name, as reading the name tag reveals he's called Thomas Armbruster, which honestly sounds like a really bad superhero name. Looking back at the flooded corridor, we can see a shootout happened here with bullets and bullet impact holes around. The bodies of fallen prisoners and guards, it's a common occurrence in this game by now. The flooded corridor has statues in the middle of it, possibly resembling Amadeus Arkham's wife. Since Joker blocked the main path, we open up a vent and crawling through, when we look down, we see a pair of red gloves and a gas mask. This belonged to Ratcatcher, an obscure Batman villain who again might be good for live action, particularly Matt Reeves. I mean, Riddler's already used a rat trap, why not go further? We enter through another steel door to the abandoned chamber, a ruined building with cobwebs. Joker's humming is echoing throughout the cavern as he maniacally mixes together chemicals. The water in this cavern is a very crystallized blue as the waterfall runs down the cave walls. We exit through another door and see a poor asylum garden worker being interrogated by thugs. They then proceed to start kicking the worker repeatedly. So we punch them repeatedly. We then speak to the garden worker called Jordan Fraser, and we now have some hostages in the aviary to save. Before heading to save them though, we explore the room a bit and find a statue of Constance Arkham, the wife of Amadeus Arkham, with the words Mad Dog etched into it. Now, this is a character from the comic Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on a Serious Earth, a large inspiration for the game, and the details behind what happened to Constance and her daughter are too graphic to describe in this video, but essentially the criminal Mad Dog murdered both of them and played with dollhouses. If you know, you know. Mad Dog will actually come up later in the Secret of Arkham tapes. We make our way to the aviary, which doesn't have any birds in cages, but instead has humans in cages. The aviary has a very unique layout, being a straight path with a freaky looking tower of glass looking over it, as well as hanging cages over death pits. It's definitely not a typical Avery. This section of the game, however, also switches up the stealth by making us have to take out the henchman leader without being spotted, and ignoring any of the henchmen, since taking them out will create an alarm the hostages to be dropped to the perilous pit of death below, because that's what you always have in a bird sanctuary. We make use of the vents to gain lower ground and then drop down the middle to find another vent, which has more Grim Reaper iconography. We then grapple up above the henchmen with the switch and knock them out silently to make sure the hostages can't be dropped. Now before the alarms go off, we have to move quickly and silently and take out the rest of the armed henchmen. We then speak to the orderlies that were in the cages, and they mention the hidden lab, and they were also looking for the Buha, so they thought it was fine to have a hidden lab in a garden.
Sorry. I thought I was working for Dr. Young. I had no idea Joker was involved until he burst in the lab.
Where is the lab?
Back over there. I always get buzzed through. There's a hidden door, but, well, you know, it's hidden.
I'll find it. Stay here.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Joker came through here about 20 minutes ago.
I thought I was gonna pass out. I can't stand heights.
We should have left Luke and Robert to die. So we locate the not-so-secret lab entrance and hack through Joker's booby-trapped gate, to find none other than the Joker man himself. He escapes in an elevator with Titan, and we fight 2 Titan bosses instead of 1. And that's the difference in this fight. It's not different than a normal fight, except there's 2 of them. But we do have a new mechanic of jumping on the Titan's head, which is fun, and it lets you move around them, and they do whack anything in sight, including other Titans and other people. We do this for a bit, lower down their health bar, and then use a knockout prompt to jump out and take out the Titans. Then we look at the design of the lab. We have strange Titan plants and glass panels on the floor, Titan boughs pumping all around the room, with the glass roof letting us see the forest outside. And of course that massive Lovecraftian moon that we all love. Then use the explosive gel and destroy the Titan production vats. Realizing Titan is made from plants, who better to speak to than Poison Ivy? But we can't get across the passage now, so we need a new gadget. And we use the Batwing to deliver this through the lovely glass roof, smashing it once again to pieces. It's one of the most cinematic shots in the game, and just one of pure vandalism from Batman. We obtain the Line Launcher, one of the best gadgets in the Arkham series, and one of my favourite. Those 2 statements have no correlation to each other. The Line Launcher creates a rope that we ride across on certain walls and gaps. It's got one of the nicest sound effects in the game as well. Entering back into the Avery, and the people we saved have been killed. They could have tried hiding, honestly, so I'm not going to blame Batman for this one. They were just dumbos. Batman actually shows some anger here though, which is nice to see as well. With the Line Launcher, we can now get across Batman's killing gap and spend some one-on-one time with Ivy. Entering Ivy's room, she's talking to a small vine. It's quite adorable and also speaks, which is kind of creepy.
It's all right, my darlings. I'm here now, my poor darlings. Yes, I know he's found us, but I won't let him hurt you. I'll kill him first.
Ivy, I know Dr. Young mutated these plants to produce venom.
Yes, and I heard it through the grapevine the evil woman paid the price.
I need you to help me create an antidote.
Why should I? Let Joker have his fun. I'll enjoy watching you squirm.
Ivy, for all her greatness, does have a very exploitable weakness, being stepping on a vine causes her to moan and fall over, so just drop a plant pot and she dies?
Okay, today we're smashing a plant. Okay, with the baseball bat. Yes! 3. Ready for this one?
Every plant on this island will get the same unless you cooperate.
There's a plant growing deep in Arkham Island. Only it can counter the effects of this Titan strain.
Where do I find it?
Oh, in Killer Croc's lair. You didn't think it would be easy, did you?
Go back to your cell, or I'll be after you next.
And I'll be waiting.
And the reality is, we have to go to Killer Croc's lair. And what may seem like a soothing light at the end of the tunnel is just an 850-pound murderous crocodile man coming our way. To find out where Killer Croc's lair is, we gotta do some backtracking, one of the most common features in a Metroidvania type game. Which Asylum is, but it's more of a mixture of different game genres. Exiting Pam's lair, a group of thugs taunt us from across the cavern. Realistically, you're meant to use the line launcher to get across, but doing so would rob us of one of the only sections in the Arkham series you can kill thugs. Most of these areas all have one thing in common: bottomless death pits and backclaws. We quick backclaw the thug and watch him fall before he hits the water. In detective mode, his skeleton disappears and he either drowns or he dies on impact, because from that height the water would be like concrete. So we repeatedly do this and watch the thugs fall to their death, screaming, while we get XP. And we avoid the hand-to-hand combat altogether. The thugs try dodging, but it's inevitable. You can't dodge the backclaw forever. And they all succumb to the Batman's death pit eventually. Heading back, the thugs have also activated the electric water again, but sadly you can't backclaw the thugs into it. I tried for a while. The armed thugs also reclaimed the main area, but they're not really a threat. We then head back to the generator room, and surprisingly, even though the thugs came back, Carl Todd survived by hiding? A concept unknown by many workers in this asylum. As we exit the botanical gardens, Joker pays a visit to Ivy and gives her a present, and the results are killer plants around the whole island. Yeah, and it's also permanent damage to all the buildings in the asylum. Well, all the buildings apart from the penitentiary, because thank God that one was spared. The worst looking one in the asylum. We also have to deal with a new enemy type. Plants that sprout a spore of death that tracks us from range and kills us. So the prisoners took over the island, killing the guards. Then the lunatics took over the island, killing the prisoners and the guards. And now the plants have taken over the island, killing the lunatics, prisoners, and the guards. The moral of this is it just really sucks to be an Arkham guard, huh? The Arkham Mansion's front door is being completely destroyed by plants, but we have a vent entrance anyway. But first, it's a good time to go back to the visitor center, since so much has happened since the gardens.
Patient continues to show bizarre and irrational tendencies. On continued observation, it is clear that he believes he can in some way influence the inevitable destruction of this city. Tests prove what can only be described as a buried messiah complex. I fear is untreatable.
Joker gives us a short, simple diagnosis, basically saying we have no hope of stopping him. This really signifies that we are near the end of the game now, with Joker not having much else to say. We destroy more plants, then we head to the mansion. The warden's statue has been completely removed from its podium by the plants. I guess this also shows the game progress as well. So does the damage on Batman, with his suit getting more ripped up as the game progresses. Like his cape having holes in it now, so realistically we shouldn't be able to glide that well. Not that you really glide that much in this game in particular anyway. Entering back into the mansion hall, the whole building is covered in Titan plants, and red pheromones fill the whole room, painting it with blood red smoke and fumes. We have to carefully line launch across the walkways, avoiding hitting into plants and falling into the spores that are very poisonous, hence the name Poison Ivy. The plants make clicking sounds as if they're trying to communicate. It's very creepy. It's also very Last of Us. We then find Aaron Cash alive and as unfazed as ever, speaking to Zach.
Man, I figured you'd be here about now. What's the deal with the plants?
It's complicated.
Let me guess. Poison Ivy. She teamed up with Joker.
All that matters is that I can stop the plants taking over the island, but...
There's always a but, isn't there?
Where do you keep Killer Croc? I found a door in the sewers, but it's sealed shut.
That monster's got his own special cell. It's right below the transfer room back in intensive treatment. Elevator goes right down to an old sewer. You just drop meat down there every day or so and try to forget about it. It's locked off. More security than the Joker. You won't get in without the warden's permission. He has the codes.
Thanks, Cash. Stay here and do not go near the plants. They'll kill you.
Then we speak to Zach and we learn that one of the men, they weren't so lucky and were grabbed by the plants. Speaking to Kevin, we get a more graphic description of what happened.
This one'll kill me. Never thought I'd see a plant. Freaking plant ripping someone apart. We're like sitting ducks. We're all gonna die.
We leave the mansion and line launch across the island in style. We have learned from Cash, who is obviously meant to represent Captain Hook, that the crocodile's lair is below intensive treatment. The first place we explored and escaped from in the game. It brings back some nice memories, doesn't it? when most people were still alive and Dr. Loopy was still intact. And speaking of throwbacks, we go back through the tunnels, but we see guards in raincoats huddled in a group. But a quick look shows the painted Joker clown face on them. A poor attempt at an ambush. We defeat the bad ambushees and find out that the intensive treatment building has been fully locked down. I'm guessing this is where most of Joker's army has been hiding and defending since the Plant and Lunatic invasion. They have a sniper guarding the front, but this will also be our way in. We climb the watchtower and line launch over to the sniper, who has the worst aim possible. We then take a full shot to the face and fail to knock him off the ledge. And then we gain access back to the start of the intensive treatment. Climbing through more maintenance, the building shakes and Ivy's plants continue their destruction of the island. We go through the vent and see Joker's goons attaching dynamite to the gargoyles. Finally, something to make the stealth combat feel less safe. They mention Razor is setting up the explosives, and wait a minute, it's the same Razor we cut down with the Batarang earlier. You know, the one with laughing gas.
I don't want to fall in the gas.
Sadly though, Joker detonates the gargoyle, blasting Razor down.
No, I'm still up!
Is this the last we've seen of Razor? Only time will tell. He survived laughing gas, I'm sure an explosion will be fine. I mean, it's fine for Batman. But on a more important note, we have no gargoyles for safety anymore. We have to rely on our environmental awareness. Now, the first time you play through this part of the game, it's pretty scary. Everyone who plays Arkham Asylum always used the gargoyles as their safety net, and why wouldn't you? It's the easiest to escape from, you get a full tactical view of the area, and you get the strongest takedown in the game with the vertical takedown. That's the meta takedown. Now they're armed with dynamite, and like poor Razor, you don't want to trigger them. We use the silent takedown on the first goon, then go back to the vent we entered from. I attempt another takedown, but I accidentally land on the guy and he falls from the ledge, so yeah, now we gotta run in a panic. In a panic, I accidentally grapple up to a bomb, but we do have 1 second to get away before the explosion. And our target is the middle building roof, giving us the best look of the arena, and personally this is one of my favourite Predator arenas, and I think it should have been the one to be remade in Arkham Knight. It's very iconic, and it was also the demo for the game. For some strange reason though, my silent takedown button prompt didn't work, so I get shot in the face. Again, this is on an easier difficulty so I can get through the story quicker, because normally this would absolutely be a death and my gameplay here would not be working. And this is honestly, out of my 100 plus playthroughs of this game, my worst attempt ever, which might just be because I'm not on a challenging difficulty as usual. So when discussing this, it's more based on what this section is like on the hardest difficulty, because here it's kind of comical, when it's meant to be really tense and scary, but the only thing scary is this gameplay, honestly. We get a nice glass takedown using the environment, which is always a plus. Then I absolutely fail at aiming a backlaw, which is just, I don't even know how I managed that. And I proceed to charge a gunman head on, which I would never recommend doing, but this time it works, so would definitely recommend as a common tactic. Then we use the vents to escape, making ourselves a shortcut, which would have been useful if I played well, but I finished this section off with a corner takedown. It would have been really interesting if they introduced the booby trap gargoyles earlier though, or maybe just even on harder difficulties. If they were in every arena, it would be interesting to see how different the playstyle in each area would change. Like the botanical gardens in particular would be a massive problem. It could actually be a fun challenge to do on another playthrough. We continue on to the cell block transfer at the start of the game, a silent and empty corridor, apart from a quiet sound in the background and an intercom message. If you turn back, you can actually once again see the gas effect.
Did anyone catch the game last night?
So fun thing here, my Scarecrow footage legit got corrupted. The only part of my long footage that got corrupted, and of course it's the Scarecrow crash, isn't it? That's creepy. So the infamous game crash scare. Scarecrow's gone after Batman's fears with his parents and him feeling like a failure to stop them, and now he's going for most gamers' fear, their game crashing and their save files being deleted. As the next scene we see is the game's starting cutscene, but the bat signal has been replaced by a Scarecrow symbol. Harley's diner has not been changed however though, and will return in Arkham Knight. But more importantly, the sign now says Madhouse and Batman may be escaping patient. Obviously everything is completely wrong, but if you didn't notice that, you can't miss that it's Joker driving the Batmobile with Batman as the prisoner. We then get to walk around as Joker with Harley and Zsasz pulling Batman on a gurney. With the warden being replaced by the Scarface puppet, Batman is screaming to be free, and it's terrifying and nothing like how Batman has acted in any situation. To the left is the warden Cash, the Bruja and Gordon, and they're being led to a firing squad. We then get to the main event with Scarecrow being the Doctor. His voice sounds like he's in another dimension.
Your head, Wayne. He's gone. Just a twisted shell of a man.
Cut me free!
He's all yours, Joker.
Oh, goody! Come on, Mr. J, we're ready!
I've waited a long time for this, Bats. Let's start the party with a bang.
A mission failure pops up telling us to use the middle stick to dodge, which unless you have an N64 controller, there is no middle stick. Another mind-trippy detail added by Rocksteady. But we hit retry and climb out of our own grave. Went back and Scarecrow's mother of all messes. The cells have been replaced with Batman lunatics, but the scariest thing is seeing Batman without a cape. Ew. The most disgusting thing though is seeing Batman eating a dead rat with no cape.
Disgusting!
Each Scarecrow section makes use of the most recently obtained gadgets, so we use the line launcher to get past the moving door. Scarecrow's world's design is a twisted, bended form of the area it happens in, so this time it's the intensive treatment building, sort of like the city in Little Nightmares 2. But to mix it up, we also get the Scarface intercom while we fight the undead skeletons. We then get a nice callback to the first Zsasz encounter, but Scarecrow is Zsasz and Batman is Mike getting tortured. We then get an awesome flashback to the elevator scene, where Harley dropped it on us, still not forgiving her for that. And then we rush to the bat signal, but before we can hit it, we actually wake up and see that every time we've been hitting the bat signal, we've been holding on to Scarecrow. He's actually been in front of us each time. Before we beat the crows out of the scare, he injects us again with his creepy needles. This time though it's different since we're in a Scarecrow arena where we have to fight skeletons and Titan skeletons, while we gradually light up more bat signals. Visually, it's impressive with the giant Scarecrow looking at us, but all in all, it's just another Titan at the end of the day, something this game uses way too much. Once we are back to reality, Scarecrow's on the other corridor now, and he tries injecting us again, but this time it don't work.
How are you doing this? You've ingested enough toxins to drive 10 men insane. What are you? Why fight it, Batman? You're as crazy as the rest of us. You need us as much as we need you. And to prove it, I'll flood the catacombs with enough fear gas to break the minds of everyone in Gotham for 100 years.
We've overcome his fear toxin, and for once, Scarecrow isn't just terrified of bats, but Batman's resilience. Around us are all the enemies we beat in the dream world, and Scarecrow once again resorts to flooding Gotham full with fear gas. He never was original in his plans. After fighting back against Scarecrow, he takes the elevator down to further below than we've ever been, to the real scariest place in the game, the creature below the intensive treatment building, abandoned but never forgotten. We see some thugs discussing the horror stories of Croc's cell. They've also blocked the way for us to get there, so we need to beat them up. And then, of course, we hack the Joker's security panel. I really feel a pattern going on now. Joker has more thugs defending the bottom, and we take them out, and then we look around the room, and on the walls are close-up pictures of Killer Croc, with notes describing his primeval emotions. Willing us to be Arkham's hardest patient to treat. We also see one of the collars on the table, the only thing that can possibly save us from being torn to pieces from the monster. One of the staff used a picture of Killer Croc's hand to make a really bad joke.
What have we got here? A fucking comedian, Private Joker.
Though if you're working in this section of the asylum, you know you've got to keep some positivity. A feeding chart is seen on the wall with the various different meats as the menu of Sundays says crocodile with a question mark. Does this make him a double cannibal, or how does that work? We actually see the meat that they feed Killer Croc in a glass container that is dropped to where the monster lies, so no one even goes near this thing. Throughout the game, Killer Croc has been set up as the horror of the asylum. From his introduction to the door you try to enter, it's been conditioned in the player's mind to avoid and fear this monster, so let's see if all that build-up pays off. We can hear is the sound of dripping water and literal catacombs with skulls in the wall. We enter through another steel door and the game simply says Croc's Lair. We find one of the Titan plant bulbs destroyed and then Scarecrow's behind us.
Too late, Batman! One step closer and this goes into the water. The cave will fill with your deepest, darkest nightmares, and you will never reach your precious venom roots.
Don't do it, Crane.
Well, it looks like Scarecrow's done for. He sure ain't showing up ever again. Now let's get straight to the point. Whose idea was it, and I mean really whose idea was it, to give Killer Croc's cell a whole ass sewer where you don't know where he is and he could escape without anyone knowing? I'm honestly surprised he didn't go around the asylum ground killing anyone, though I guess he couldn't get out the sewers with the locked doors as he attempted earlier. Looks like Joker never did free Croc. But yeah, Killer Croc has a full sewer to play around in. We line launch around the sewer until we come to a sign with so many warning signs spread out in front of it. I've never seen so much warnings of death. It's also written in multiple languages. They don't want anyone going near this death trap. Slabs of rotten meat on hooks lay outside for feeding Croc. It being outside means Croc can get outside, so these warning signs should have been shown to people a bit earlier than this point. But we ignore all obvious warnings, because of course we do, and we head into Croc's lair. It's at this point that have we not considered the fact that maybe, just maybe, Poison Ivy was lying about the plant being here. Like, how does she even know where it is? And if she said it was in any other place in the island, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. Of course, it's the most dangerous place where the monster lies, because that's where the plant's gonna grow, isn't it? And you can't really trust the woman who's trying to kill you. Like, why did we even decide to go here? But of course, Batman has used a scanner to detect the spores.
Croc's just an animal, and animals just need traps and the right bait. I'll be fine. I'll contact you.
Batman calling Croc an animal is sort of out of character as well, since he tries to see everyone as being helped, and for all intents and purposes, Croc is a human technically, even though this interpretation is the most monstrous I've ever seen. So we walk through the sewer maze, and there's always a sewer section in a game, isn't there? And it's barely lit with lights on the wall with moths floating around the lights. And also floating is the platforms, which act as the gameplay design here. We have to move slowly across the platforms as to not alert Croc to where we are. If we run too fast, Croc will find us and eat us. And it's a very disturbing death scene, so we don't want to see that. This is one of the most tense and scary parts of the game, and as a kid I had to get my brother to do it because, yeah, Croc was scary to me. As a kid. No, even to this day he's pretty terrifying. At least I can now do this section now. Sort of. Croc makes sounds in the background occasionally to remind you he still exists, and we really don't want to know that. And we come to many gates in the water that we have to jump over. The sewer's design isn't really based on any logic, it's more video game logic as to why there's so many floating platforms. The best tactic you can do here is to walk around, or it was until I actually researched and learned you can use the goddamn line launcher to speed up this part. So, the second best way you can do it is to just walk around slowly with the Batarang out, because you're gonna need to have that Batarang out, because once Croc jumps up, you don't have much time to hit him. Before we are killed, we throw the Batarang and hit the collar just in time. This stuns him for a bit and makes him go away for a small period of time. And this is the gameplay loop in this area. Every time Croc shows up, we throw a Batarang at his collar, and if we miss, it's an instant death. Now the issue here is he can come from any direction and you have to be fast, and if you panic and take too long, yeah, you're dead. But we're quick, so we get Croc again and then find the first plant sample on the ground. So Ivy wasn't lying. I'd call that a green flag for the Green Lady. But of course the plant sample is not enough, so we have to spend more time in the murky awful death sewer of death. Croc pops up as we are getting the next plant closer this time and almost crushes us when he falls. And after a few more plant collecting and Croc jump scares, he decides to start smashing random platforms, trapping Batman. But we have the line launcher to get across, though Croc does reach an arm out attempting to grab us and eventually gets smarter. And Batman has to run from the exploding platforms and avoid Croc's smash attack. This really just sounds like a Smash Bros. Tutorial at this point. This also blocks us from returning and smartly leads the player to progression without them realizing it. Collecting the last spore, we get the most frightening jump scare from Croc, and now using the Batarang we placed at the start, we can get back to the entrance. The game actually speeds up this section by making most of it running back to avoid the smash attack, and once you get to 115 meters, it's a straight run to the start. But to our horror, as we get to the entrance, the gate falls, trapping us with Croc appearing right in front of us. But Batman prepared for this and planted explosive gel on the weak floor in front of us. We need to time it right as he steps on it or Croc will get us. But we pay attention to Batman's voice and time it perfectly, avoiding a grisly death and watching Croc fall to even lower sewers, I guess. We escape the sewers and have just conquered the scariest and most tense part of the game. Nothing can stop us now and we are ready for any situation. We glide back in style to the Batcave by gliding through Tomb Raider-esque design mountains. We then head to the sewer junction and the water's green with Joker polluting the water, taking a note out of Scarecrow's plan. It's honestly very easy for the water to be polluted in Gotham if any crazy just gets to the sewer junction, or Killer Croc's lair for that matter. Now, I'm honestly going to skip through this part since up until now I've pretty much shown almost every part of the game, and that's because there's been a lot to talk about. But this part of the game to me is the weakest part in terms of fun, pacing, and just repetitiveness. There's no new mechanic here, and I don't think Joker poisoning the water was needed. The game's story feels like it's coming to its natural conclusion with Poison Ivy than Joker. There's nothing new learned in this section, and we've already figured out the entire Titan plan, and the gameplay here is another Predator section and hacking and even more of the booby trap security panels, which is getting very repetitive at this point, and then it ends with a Titan fight, which is getting really repetitive at this point. It's the same gameplay formula, but in a sewer. There's not much to discuss here, so we're just going to skip it and head straight to Poison Ivy. With us venturing below Arkham and facing our fears in more ways than we know, we return to the surface to deal with the crazy plant lady and then stop Joker and end this night once and for all. Before heading to Ivy, we take one last visit to the visitor center.
I once went to a psychiatrist. Doc, I said, every time I get into bed, I think there's somebody under it. I get under the bed, I think there's somebody on top of it. I was going crazy, so I cured myself. I cut the legs off my bed, and then the doctor. Slept fine ever since. There were these two guys in a lunatic asylum. Oh, hell, you've heard that one before, haven't you? Let's just get down to business. You're probably wondering how this is all going to turn out, aren't you? Is it driving you bats? You probably thought you could follow that idiot guard to the old man, didn't you? Sorry about that. Hang on a second. If I outsmarted you, and I am, well, quite clearly insane, what does that make you? Let's talk about employee relations, Bats. Harley disappointed me, and now she's out of the picture. Gone, forgotten, dead to me. You get the idea. What's it like in your organization? Do you punish your hired help when they fail you? Or is that saucy outfit you make them wear punishment enough? So what will it be, Bats? You and me caught in this eternal struggle. One destined to kill the other. what will we do when one of us wins? Have you even considered it? Terrifying, isn't it? Hey, breaking news! There's been a multiple car pileup on the Gotham freeway. Some guy's being cut out of the wreckage. Looks painful. The reporter's telling us he's been paralyzed on one side of his body. His wife's in tears. What's she worried about? I'm sure he's going to be all right. You get it? All right. A patient goes to see his doctor. Doc, he says, you gotta help me. My wife thinks she's a chicken. The doctor asks, how long has she had this condition? 2 years, says the man. Then why did it take you so long to come and see me, asks the shrink. The man shrugs his shoulders and replies, I needed the eggs.
He tells us one really bad joke. But the more interesting thing is, there's 5 Joker mannequins now, which change around each time Batman turns around, with some even disappearing entirely. Are we going mad now? Poison Ivy's pheromones have completely filled the air, causing the whole island to be covered in a red, pinky hue. Here, plants are everywhere to be found now. The island is quite literally being ripped apart. Poison Ivy's sultry voice taunts us as we get closer to the botanical gardens and Ivy herself. We run past, destroying more bulbs. I think it's going to take more than breaking a plant pot to take down Ivy now. We take down the snipers and hear the short-lived oncoming war between Ivy and Joker. We're not going to let that happen though. There's been too many factions fighting for one night.
God, she ever stop going on about those plans of hers?
When I finish with Batman, I'll be coming after you.
Presents, experimental chemicals, nice costumes, and they still turn on you. Well, good luck to you, Toots. I got an army, a city-sized dose of type, and a bag of weed. Come and find me when you're done with that ring. Ooh, it'll be fun. You can bring the wine. I'll make the salad.
The glasshouse statue has been completely covered by plants, with the previous prisoners now being killed and some straight up half eaten by the plants. The whole night of the asylum has been one big cycle of death, with each faction killing the other. I do wonder what a Titan army versus a plant army would look like though. Poison Ivy continues her seductiveness and breaks open the path for us with a massive vine.
Are you ready for me? Do you think you can handle me? I'm waiting in here. Come to me.
Killer Croc prefers to use TikTok while Poison Ivy uses Vine. That was a really bad joke, I'm sorry. We see more inmates killed by plants, ones we knocked out, so are we technically responsible for this? The corridors of the botanical gardens are now blooming with flowers, and as we turn the corner, Poison Ivy has hypnotized the security guards to attack us.
I've got myself a little security Batman. They'll just die if anything happens to me.
And then worship her. Who's the real Bruja? The game designers have blocked all other paths by placing them with plants and prisoner bodies, so there's only one way to go now, and only one way we want to go. We line Launcher over and see the plant half eating a prisoner. It's hard to feel sorry for them though, considering what they've done previous to this. And then we arrive outside the door to Ivy's lair. Quick note, if in public or with audio playing without headphones, turn down this section.
I won't let you destroy it, Batman.
I told you to go to your cell.
I was a fool. I thought the plants were in pain. Now I realize they were evolving, growing stronger. And now we'll grow together. Gotham will be mine.
Well, it looks like Joker got his wish for massive killer plant, and we now have to dodge the vines by jumping left and right. The batarangs are used to break Ivy's shell, and if we don't dodge, we get squeezed by the vines and we have to break free, or die.
My vines have a crush on you.
She then starts rapid firing spore bullets at us. Her mistake though is opening herself up to laugh. The boss fight is great. It's completely different from all the Titan fights we've done, way too much, and thematically it's incredible. The problem however is, let's say for instance, little innocent Timmy is playing the boss fight with the loudspeaker on the TV. Well, he's gonna get a talking to from his parents about the stuff he's watching because Poison Ivy's moans way too loud every time she gets hit, and it doesn't exactly sound like she's in pain. It's a really weird choice, even if she's meant to be very sexual. Her getting hurt by batarangs though, she shouldn't be making those sounds. But apart from that, the boss fight is probably the best one in the game. After the first of her health bar drops, she falls to the ground and we plant explosive gel on the shell that she's encased in. And then we blow it up and oh my god, Rocksteady, seriously, this is the sound you chose. Like, that's actually mad. Really do wonder how this got a teen rating. With the violence, torture, dark themes, suggestive stuff, times were really different back then. Ivy eventually brings up more hypnotized guards for us to fight, which distract us from dodging the vines, so there's a lot to think about in this fight. After blowing Ivy's shell with the gel one final time, she lets out her death moan and then smashes the glass house to pieces before falling and sinking into the ground. Batman then grapples out of there, and with us dealing with Poison Moan, lights hit the gloom on the grey as fireworks shoot up into the sky. And Joker announces that the party is about to start. As we head over to the party, we reflect back on the long night we've just been through. We've explored pretty much everywhere in Arkham Asylum, and honestly, we've failed to save majority of the staff. We've fought Zaz and Bane and way too many Titans. We've been in Scarecrow's dream world, and we've dealt with massive plants and crocodile cannibal men that we never want to see again, and we've seen the island itself change throughout the game, from the guards in control to the initial panic and confusion as the prisoners break free, to the takeover from the Blackgate prisoners and the lunatics running around, to then the killer plants, and now all we have is a couple lunatics running around. The last of Joker's army is much smaller now, and they're gathered at the visitor center, with the Joker face being complete. The game progression is complete. The final part of the game is here. The inmates stand outside with party hats and a monster sale sign. We look at the list and Batman is written in big red writing. The inmates start clapping for us, and it feels nice to be appreciated for all we've done in the game. You know, we've had some failures, but we've had some saviors as well. Inside the visitor center, a line of applause for us, but we need the party people achievement. So we have to take them all down, sadly. Using the line launcher is the funniest way to do this, and we get a perfect max combo. Then we enter the visitor center for the last time, and we see the lone Joker mannequin behind the glass.
Are you excited, Bats? I mean, we've been building up to this point all night. Don't tell me you've not been looking forward to it. I know I have. Surprise!
Hey! Whoa! I knew it! I knew there were little people in the TV!
Everyone always said I should be in television. You don't want to miss this, really. It'll be a blast. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1!
We survive another explosion to the face. It seems to be Batman's only superpower. And it seems that Joker was always one of the mannequins each time we visited. Or maybe he was none of them. You can't tell, and you'll never know. And that's just so Joker. But the explosion has flung glass everywhere and also glitched a chair for me, so we get to hear that beautiful sound of a glitching item. And then going through the visitor center, we find Joker on his throne of dolls and mannequins.
Why didn't you stop Batman? Me? It was your plan, you goofy clown.
mind sending you back to the ventriloquist where you belong. You had to spoil everything, didn't you? Beating up Bane, feeding Scarecrow to Croc, slapping around Harley, my hobby, by the way, and ruining all my lovely venom plants.
It's over, Joker.
Over? Why, my dear delusional Dark Knight, it hasn't even begun.
Joker's turned some guards into Titans, and sadly, it's just another Titan fight. And 2 of them. The exact same thing we've fought way too many times. So we attempt to look around Joker's lair, which is just more cells, and then looking at the phone we realise this is most likely where Joker's been speaking on all the monitors. You know, around the asylum. He was in the visitor center the whole time, and he only came out for certain things like heading to the Botanical Gardens to mix the Titan. Instead of Jack White, Joker should be called Walter White, I guess.
Say, he looks all run down. Let's pep him up.
No! Batman!
Batman jumps in front of the Titan bullet for Gordon and attempts to brute force resisting the Titan chain. Joker then shoots himself with the Titan formula and overdoses, which will have 0 consequences. And then we get the most controversial part of Arkham Asylum, Joker's Titan form. And I'm gonna be honest, it's not that bad for me considering how hard it is to do any kind of Joker boss fight, so him becoming a Titan and wanting Batman to be a Titan isn't that out of character. He wants an epic showdown where they kill each other. However, the characterization of Titan is very inconsistent. It's more the intelligent people get to keep their mind, because the thugs and the guards' Titan form were incapable of speech, and also thought. Batman uses the Titan cure on himself though to resist becoming a Titan, and we have to fight as a human. The Mohawk for me just doesn't suit him, it's too much punk rock, and I wish his voice changed a bit. Honestly think the original concept design would have worked much better, being more lanky and creepy than brute. If this thing was hunting you around the island, it would have been a crazy good boss fight mixing stealth and combat, but instead we get this. The Titan Joker swings wildly at you with his claws and then jumps up and throws the thugs down for us to fight, which doesn't make much sense when he's a Titan monster. He shouldn't need thugs to help him. So we hit the thugs into the electric fence and that takes them down quicker, and Gordon is also getting electrocuted in a chair while the fight is going on, but it's not timed so there's no worry there. And even if he was timed, we'd let it run out. Eventually Joker will turn around to gloat at the helicopters and cameras, which lets you use the backlaw and pull him down into the Joker face floor, which he's also painted as 2 Joker face floors. He does eventually start throwing down explosive presents, but they hurt the thugs more than Batman. And that's it. That's actually the whole fight. It's somehow the easiest fight in the game, the least threatening, and also the least scary. It's not as good as a Titan fight, which is a low bar to set. It's very underwhelming and one of the worst ways you could have ended what has been a masterpiece of a game up to this point. With some lows, but mostly major highs. You legit pull him down 3 times, then expect a second phase or something, but there isn't.
Now why would you do that?
This is what his plan was, to turn into a slower, worse version of himself with long nails. The Titan monsters are really not a threat and could have been taken out by a small army. Months of planning for this? I expected superhuman strength and agility, but he gets gassed after 3 swings. The last pull sends him down into the electrified floor. I fear Dr. Penlupi has scammed you, Joker.
I can take it. I can take anything you throw at me, Bats. You can't beat me. I'm actually going to win. Ready for the next round?
Always.
What?
I'll never let you win. Never.
We then get the final cutscene. The medical center is being used for everyone who was injured, which is a lot. Titan inmates have returned to normal on their own, and so has Joker with no side effects whatsoever. Now, when we really think about it, Batman kind of failed a lot during this night. He let a grand total of 168 people die, and it's been counted. Some who could have been saved, and some that was out of his control. The majority of staff at the asylum are now dead, and it's hard to comprehend as a story just how many people died on this night. The only objective Batman succeeded in here was eventually stopping the Joker, but even then, the island is permanently damaged from Poison Ivy's plants and mostly him. And in the cutscene after the credits, there's 3 characters who can show up, and it's random each playthrough. And for this one, it's of course Killer Croc, but he's holding on to a crate of Titan, which also means Batman failed to stop the Titan getting to Gotham, and the consequences of that, well, we'll see what happens in Arkham City. But while the story of Arkham is over, we still have some bonuses to go through, and Batman Arkham Asylum has a lot of fun ones. So let's start with the main bonus thing you'll do in this game that basically unlocks all extras, and that's the infamous Riddler trophies. There's a certain amount in each area of the game and all around the island, so you're gonna have to explore, and when looking back into the game, it puts us right before the visitor center part with the fireworks. Some of the trophies will unlock challenge maps and some character trophies. There's actually a lot of variety with the Riddler challenges here. Though I always do forget to do the Joker chattering teeth, but there's also the actual riddles. None of them are very hard, but they are the most fun in my opinion.
Killer Moth!
And then there's also Match the Riddler symbol with the environmental design. These can be quite tricky, but I personally do enjoy them. You can only see the Riddle paint with detective mode on. There's also the story-related ones with patient interviews, offering more story and lore, and the Chronicles of Arkham, which have nothing to do with the Riddler. Exploring the island at the end of the game, it's really silent, and the only enemies you can encounter is the lunatics. Apart from that, your only company is the recently deceased. A lot of riddles are references to the wider Batman mythos, and getting the Riddler trophies finally lets you explore every inch of Arkham. There's very little places you don't get to go in this game, so I think that's what makes people remember the location so fondly. It's hard to think of many games that let you fully explore a detailed location like this, but it's once we've unlocked all the Riddler trophies that we get the satisfaction of beating the Riddler. While doing the trophies, Batman started to hone in on the Riddler's broadcasting location and got him locked up.
What? You did it? You must have cheated. There is no way you could have beaten me. Well, you asked for it, Batman. My final challenge for the whole of Gotham is just seconds away. What? Sirens. The police. You cheated, Batman. You couldn't have outsmarted me. Police, open up! No. I said open the door, now! No! Down on the ground! Down on the ground! No! Tell me, how did you work out where I was? Do you hear me? I, Edward Nigma,
in which he most likely watches the Saw movies while in prison. So now that all the Riddler trophies have been unlocked, we can check out our rewards. One of the coolest rewards, and one that should be a staple in every game, is the character trophies, which is a certified pixel appreciator. Let us look at every pixel on the characters and just appreciate every single one of them. This is perfect for the designs of the characters and for any artists or cosplayers, so they can really nail all the details that otherwise might be hidden to them. It's also just a really fun unlockable to have in a game. We also have the challenge mode, later renamed to challenge maps, where we get to choose from 2 costumes, armored and unarmored. It's also another disappointing part in the game that there's only 2 costumes. We also have a selection of invisible predator and combat maps from various locations in the asylum. For combat, some have gimmicks like wave survival till you die to see what high score you get, though most of the others are just a certain number of rounds with enemies getting harder each time. The real point of the challenge maps though is to earn the challenge medals, in which for combat you need to get a certain score. You do this by using variations in your combat and keeping a high combo. The best way to do it is to not get hit and never lose your combo. In this way you get a perfect free flow combo bonus. These can be quite challenging to get the highest number of bats, being 3, since it's easy for your combo to be interrupted. However, the main tough part of challenge maps though is predator sections, since the challenges here are very specific and can be quite hard to pull off. It also shows you ways to use the gadgets in predator situations that you wouldn't have ever thought of. with some of the medals needing a certain upgrade to be able to do so. But the last part I want to talk about is character bios, drawn beautifully by talented Carlos Deanda, who also drew concept art for the game and is a famous comic artist. The character bios let you learn more about the characters in the game and the Batman mythos and show you all information about them from weight to first appearance in comics. Some of the characters also have patient interviews we collected throughout the game. I'm going to discuss a few that I feel add to the story, but not all of them. So starting with Joker's, throughout the interview we learn that the Joker attempts to get each doctor to diagnose him differently, and that Dr. Penlupi believed that anyone can be cured, something she actually shares with Batman's belief.
Take patient interview. Subject has no recorded name, alias listed as the Joker. In the room is Warden Sharp and myself, Dr. Young.
Is this another one of those boring psych evaluation tests?
No, it's not. So, you're the famous Joker.
In the flesh. So, Doc, do you want me to look at the ink blots again? The first one is a kitten I had when I was a child. The second is, let's see, a dead elephant. The third is a...
Funny. Now let's skip the jokes.
Skip the jokes? Hey, Sharpie, didn't she get my permanent record? Be quiet, clown.
Every doctor that has ever interviewed you claims a different type of psychosis. Everything from multiple personality disorders to, well, the list is endless.
I do my best.
Well, I don't believe it. Anything can be cured given a correct treatment.
And you think you can cure me?
Oh, I know I can.
The next tape is just Joker messing with Penelope, but from the third we find out how she believed Joker would be cured by Project Titan as a test subject, not realizing he was behind the whole operation.
Hold on. This whole operation was your idea.
Joker is more interesting than I originally believed. When Project Titan is operational, I believe Joker will be the perfect test subject. Good afternoon. Today I thought I'd skip back to our previous conversations about your family.
Of course. I was born in a small fishing village. I always wanted to join the circus, but my father wouldn't really let me.
I don't believe you.
My father was a cop. 1 week from retirement when the mob...
I've seen the movie. What are you scared of?
Scared?
Yes, scared. There's obviously something. Something that made you what you are.
What if I'm too scared to remember? It hurts too much.
Then I can help you.
The final tape shows she did try to stop the Titan project, but she quite literally made a deal with the devil and got burnt.
Even my funding worries have been solved after the unexpected donations from Mr. White. Joker has also shown a remarkable interest in the possibility of a cure. Once the protein bonding process is finalized, I will...
Dr. Young, you ready?
Oh, yes, come in.
You'll hurt my feelings, Doc, keeping me waiting like that.
Sit down. You can leave us.
You sure?
We're fine. Aren't we, Joker?
Oh, yes.
Well, if you insist. I'm just outside, okay?
So is he here? Did your patient X arrive?
Yes, I must say progressing more rapidly than I expected. But enough of that. Let's talk about you.
No. Let's talk more about your Titan project.
My what? How do
I know you have Bane strapped to a table in the basement while you pump him dry? Would you believe a lucky guess?
I've been a fool. Joker was behind it all. He's Jack White. He gave me the money, pulled the strings to release Bane. How could I not have seen it? He's been blackmailing me. He has a crazy plan to create an army of monsters. I want out, but... Hello? Dr. Young's office.
Please hold for Mr. White.
What?
Hello, Doc. We need to talk.
I'm not doing it, Joker. Do you hear me? Wait. How did you get access to a phone?
Oh, yes. Sorry, Doc. Had to split. I hate small, confined spaces. Reminds me of my childhood.
Another lie?
Who knows? I certainly don't, but let's not get distracted with details. So, anyway, I want my monsters.
I sent you back the money. I don't want it.
Do I look like I care about money? I just want my monsters, Doc. And if you don't give them to me, well then, it won't be funny.
Hugo Strange's character bio was quite interesting, mentioning bizarre plots based around genetics and mind control, for what seems like throwaway lines actually end up playing a major part in the series. But the most interesting of all is the Spirit of Arkham tapes. Read by Amadeus Arkham's ghost, it tells the story of Amadeus and how he slowly descended into madness and was eventually imprisoned in his own asylum.
My family's blood ran through the heart of Gotham. We were doctors, politicians, and teachers. We have been the organ, cleaning the arterial filth from the city. We have been its servants, giving all to protect it. And still it has chosen to hurt us. As Gotham's veins slowly filled with pain and suffering, the effects were felt everywhere. My father fell first, infected by some foul disease. My mother lived on, but only in a dream. I returned to the family home to care for her, where she remained in her bed for as long as her body continued to breathe. Her tears kept me awake at night. My journey lasted little over a month. Visiting academics in both Metropolis and Keystone, I was exposed to a wealth of new ideas. I began my day returning home in good spirits, eager to see my wife and family. I ended it kneeling in their blood, broken fragments of my life, pouring through dripping red fingers. I returned to my work, but I could not shake the pictures from my mind. I should have been repulsed, but I was more eager than ever to find an explanation for why someone would do this. They brought the animal before me, shameless and barking like a mad dog. For what felt like days, I endured his boasts. He took pleasure recounting his actions, cataloguing his depraved crimes. What should have been revenge turned to pity. This poor dog needed my help. The island changed little over the years. Its reputation was in tatters, but I vowed to fix it. As the buildings were rebuilt, I saw the future. A bright, wonderful future. New brick, metal, and paint covered old wounds. Fresh blood was injected into the body. Bright new minds came, and all swore to uphold our promises. We all knew we were the ones to fix this city, and the city would thank us. My family's killer stood in front of me. Years of therapy have deemed him sane. I was proud to see him walk free. In exchange for his liberty, the state required only a signature. He talked about wanting to walk in a park, how he longed to feel fresh air on his face. And then he took my father's fountain pen and killed my secretary. As he was subdued, he screamed out, pleading for forgiveness, for pity. But I had none. I watched as guards beat him to a stain on the floor.
It's message 9 where the story takes a twist and Amadeus goes from trying to cure Gotham to trying to eliminate the patients. It goes with the hidden theme of Arkham Asylum that it was made not to cure but to punish even the non-criminal patients. What's fascinating about Arkham as a place is that it goes against everything that Batman stands for. It's the only place his rogues gallery are sent to normally. It's a never-ending cycle of insanity. There's Message 11 though, where the whole narrative changes. Here it's not actually Amadeus' ghost, it's Warden Quincy Sharp, who has undiagnosed schizophrenia and multiple personality disorder. He believes himself to be possessed by Amadeus Arkham's spirit.
On my island, I passed by the penitentiary and felt nauseous at the thought of the filth it contained. I looked out over the Gotham Bay, and in the distance I saw lights. No doubt boats bringing more filthy degenerates to my city. I swore again to protect her from this darkness. I argued with the latest group of young, eager doctors. They bored me with theories and ideas, proving that they had no theories on how to cure these animals. Only one shared my vision. I offered her the chance to explore her dreams. She accepted. We'll make a good team. To the island. They said he was responsible for the disappearance of hundreds of the city's vagrants. As I looked at his disgusting body, all scales and teeth, my mind ran free, dreaming of delicious punishments to break this monster. Doctors gathered around, poking it, examining, but only I knew what would cure him, once and for all. The beast was too strong. His animal savagery nearly cost me my life. I took my frustrations out on a lone patient. His case notes suggested he was a paranoid schizophrenic. His pleas, as I beat him to death, suggested much more. His confessions were illuminating. My path was clear. Every day I found the patients more distracting. Their insane mutterings and constant twitching disgusted me. There was only one way to cure this evil. Only one way to purify the city and ensure its future. I needed to prepare myself. I needed to be ready. I asked him if it was a sin to kill in order to save a life. The holy man said all life was sacred, but a judgment would not be upon my soul if I acted to save another. I left the confessional with my soul uplifted, convinced more than ever I am doing a service not only to mankind, but to God as well. I watched in silence as he brought in the woman. Her skin now a venomous green. The wanton creature no longer looked like a human being, much less a woman. The Bible says, "Suffer not a witch to live." Yet he has once again delivered this female atrocity to our care. Once I have dealt with the monster, I think it will be time to see if green wood does, in fact, burn.
The messages talk about characters like Killer Croc, who wasn't alive back when Amadeus Arkham was alive. It's ironic that he beat to death a paranoid schizophrenic, when that's what Sharp is as well. Sharp eventually started believing he was God's chosen to rid, in his words, the filth of the city. His description of Poison Ivy is one of the reasons I like her design so much. It probably puts it into better words than me, honestly. His final words speak of him leaving these hidden messages around the asylum, begging whoever finds them to continue his work in purifying the city. If we do go back to where he was last seen, Quincy's shop at the end of the game isn't there. We just find, written in a circle, the word Batman over and over again. And it's been written with a rusty nail and Quincy Sharp's own blood. So Batman Arkham Asylum ends not with a bang, but a small flickering flame on a candle of one big delicious cake. It's hard to sum up my personal thoughts about Arkham Asylum. It's truly a game from another period of time, one that can fit with any Batman canon and a mixture of many game genres. Not quite a Metroidvania, but with a lot of elements from them. It's more like a Zelda game honestly, with each building being its own dungeon and boss at the end. But by taking ideas from two of the greatest game franchises ever, it was a fantastic idea that really paid off for Rocksteady. But the thing that made Arkham a success was essentially creating a survival horror video game atmosphere and world, filling it with some of the most iconic Batman villains, and letting you play as Batman by taking all the aspects of Batman you could ever think of, and then translating them into game form. With the stealth, the gadgets, the detective work, and the hand-to-hand combat, they flipped the idea of a superhero game on its head, by not being restricted from it having to be tied into a movie franchise or a pre-existing version of Batman. They got to experiment and make their ultimate Batman game. And the success of Arkham Asylum would birth the golden age of Batman and DC games. No longer would superhero games be ridiculed and mocked. We wouldn't accept low-quality movie tie-ins. The success of Arkham Asylum would bring forth Arkham sequels and inspire games like Insomniac's Spider-Man series. And the DNA of Arkham's combat can be found in many video game titles. So we now leave behind the madness and tragedy of the asylum, the horrors of the inmates and the treatments given to them, but the actions of Dr. Penelope Young, and the Titan formula, and the various things going on in the background of the asylum that we will not find out about until much later, will come forth in what, in my opinion, was one of the greatest video game sequels ever made. By letting Batman escape from the claustrophobic halls of the asylum and its grounds, and be free to fly in the city, we'd finally see what an open-world Batman game's full potential could be. But one thing is for certain: Batman Arkham Asylum had changed video games forever. So you made it to the end of the video. Well, congratulations, it's a long one. I spent a long time making this video and I really tried to put as much detail and information as I could about the game, so I hope you enjoyed it. I mean, I'm hopeful you enjoyed it. I would assume you did if you made it this far. But I'd really appreciate it if you did give the video a like and commented below your thoughts on anything about the video. It's a different type of video to what I've done before, but it's going to be the norm from now on. I'm going to cover a wide range of video games, from well-known ones to ones you probably haven't heard of. So if you did enjoy the video, I would consider subscribing. It helps me a lot and it lets me continue to make these behemoth of videos. Now, if you want to support me in another way, I have a Patreon where I'm going to be uploading an audio-only version of all my videos that you can download if you want to listen to while, you're at a job, or you want to currently have access to Wi-Fi. I've got you covered. And also in the future, I'll be doing my own creator's commentary if you want even more thoughts or anything I didn't include in the video. That'll probably be as long as this video, or even longer, honestly. But if you do want access to that, the Patreon is in the link below. Now, for Batman Arkham City, it's a longer game. So I'm aiming to have that video done by early next year. Here's a quick look at the next video.